Hey friends, it has been a while and it is so good to be back here with you in the studio. I have something very, very special for you. Today I got to sit down with Danny Stone of Intec Audio. A lot of you don't know this, but Danny and I actually collaborated on the renovation of this studio. So Danny is like an analog master, and he designed this room that I'm in right now, as well as two other rooms, and he really was the analog core of the renovation, and then I was kind of the other side of it, the digital side, the networking, the computers, the tuning of the Atmos systems, and we became really, really good friends throughout this process. Danny also has his own company designing and building analog products. He has a whole line of DIs that are honestly some of the best DIs that I've ever heard, as well as some rack-mounted gear, both for studio and for live. This conversation ended up being so cool because Danny has had such a vast career of building studios, designing his own studios, really working with all that old analog gear, and then even into the modern age of Pro Tools and big consoles. This conversation for me was so much fun to have. We go into some crazy stories from when he was a child, getting in trouble with the government by taking apart radios and modifying them and giving himself an education from libraries and electronics, and then throughout his studio career, and then kind of what pushed him into creating his own products. It's a really, really cool story, and I'm just so excited to share it with you guys. So here it is. I hope you enjoy it. This is a conversation with me and the legendary Danny Stone. Maybe we need one of those.
All right, yeah. Okay. Take one.
Take one. Here we go. It's crazy, like, having, I don't know, I've always wanted to have kind of a conversation like this. Like, I was just talking to Chris Jacob, the intern that used to work here, and I was telling him that I was going to do this with you, and he was of course, he was just super excited about it, because you know how stoked he gets about everything. And I was at his house, which by the way, I got to show you his studio.
He's got a studio?
I don't know if I took any pictures. Yeah, his wife's so cool. He has like a really nice spare room that has like these big windows that looks out, and it's like down a street, and there's like cool houses, like almost like.
So he's got a view.
Yeah, it's beautiful too. Like when you walk in there, it just looks so cool. It's like almost like I don't want to say a movie, but kinda, because all the fall leaves were down, and it was just down the whole street, and it's all like kind of brick style, a little bit older-ish houses, probably like 90s brick houses. And it just looked like it was like cool vibes, basically. Yeah. And it sounds really good. He has a lot of treatment on there. It's just the low mids and the low end are really kind of messed up. But he thought of you. He was saying, he's like, Danny was just in my head because my instinct was to make the room like super dead, because that's what he's done in the past. Right. But he's like, I'm trying to keep a little reflection in here, little, liveliness. Yeah, right. And he surprisingly, like, it's really nice. Yeah. I walked in, I was clapping, I was like, actually, like, this is decent. Right. It's not perfect. And when you talk, you can hear that like 200, especially. Yeah, there's a build up, especially in the center of the room. Yeah. And we didn't play any like subs or anything like that. But anyway, I told him about doing this, and I actually asked if he would do it too, because I thought it would be really cool just to...
Did he say he will?
Yeah, he said he would, yeah. And his version's going to be more like... he's going to be asking tons of questions, really, about mixing and like gear, and we're going to actually pull some stuff up and whatever. But he just recorded a podcast with his wife, which is interesting, and not for anything, not to like go anywhere.
Just to talk?
Just to talk and almost like be intentional about like, I don't really know. It's like different whenever you're talking and something's recording. Right. Like right now. Like right now feels completely different than almost every day when we talk and have these like really in-depth conversations. Right. But it makes you like, what he said is, and I agree, it makes you like get way deeper. Like you just start going way deeper than you normally would, because you almost like want it captured, like to listen back. Well,
there's a purpose.
There's a purpose for it, right?
It's not just some casual conversation.
Right. That's it. That's totally it. So yeah, it's really cool. I'm like super stoked.
So he's still into all this electronic music?
Oh yeah.
So he made some new stuff?
Yep. He's doing tons of stuff. I didn't get to, we completely ran out of time whenever I was at his house, so we didn't get to, we just started talking about this place and also a lot about like motorcycles.
Yeah, you showed me that picture.
Yeah, because he got a motorcycle and I recently got a motorcycle, and so we just were nerding out, and I got to get on his. I'm never riding that thing though.
Is his
Scary.
is a little taller than yours, or is it?
Actually, it is the exact, like for me,
Uh-huh.
it's the exact same, I guess, height. I guess it would be height.
Yeah.
Like the way my feet are on the ground are the
Right.
exact same.
Really?
I was surprised. Yeah. And it makes sense because it's like a street bike.
Yeah.
Versus mine's like an adventure bike.
Right.
A lowered adventure bike.
Right. Yeah. So yours by nature be a little bit typically taller.
Right. Yeah. And his is, I think, because those typically are low.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because you're
Like a
typically
sport
looking
bike?
for speed and stuff.
Yeah,
So you get down low.
Yep.
Less wind resistance.
Yeah. Yeah. And his is like the, you lean way forward.
Basically
ones.
laying on the tank.
Dude, I cannot imagine. And how loud they are.
Yeah.
Blew my mind. Because he turned it on, it sounds awesome.
Right.
And then I like barely revved it, and I jumped because I just wasn't expecting it.
Yeah.
Because mine's not loud.
The response and how loud it was.
It was freaking loud. And we were up against a wall in a
garage.
garage.
I was going to say,
So,
it's going to be a lot louder.
yeah,
inside.
he opened the door so that it would go out a little bit and not just ring, you know.
Right.
But it was loud. It was really, really
How
cool.
long has he had it?
He got it like 3 days before I got there.
Oh, so it's
Yeah.
new for him.
Yep, he just got it like just recently, and he's been kind of looking for one. He was saying for that, basically that bike.
Right.
So I think we're gonna do a bike trip, but he's gonna take his brother has like an adventure bike,
Oh.
and so he said that he would just trade with his brother, and
Take
he's
off
done
with
it a
that
bunch
one.
of time. Yeah, and go do like an Arkansas
Right.
like week long bike trip and camp and stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe in the spring. Be so sick.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fun talking with him about the podcast especially because he just started kind of doing them. So it was really, really interesting. And he's literally only doing it just to have deeper conversations. So he's like,
So he actually does it to have a deeper conversation with his wife?
yeah, which is so interesting. And it was cool whenever he said it because I had, I don't remember what podcast I was listening to, but I was listening to one. I think it was Theo Vaughn. I don't know if you've ever heard of Theo Vaughn. No. He's like a super popular podcaster guy. He's a comedian. He's like exactly himself. Like it's crazy. It's crazy. He was anyway. I'm not even gonna go there. Anyway, he's awesome. He's really cool. But he was saying that I'm probably getting this wrong because it may not have been him, but whoever it was saying that he thinks that everybody should have a podcast with their wife and like closest friends, even if they don't know that you're recording them.
Right.
Like if you just pull up your phone,
Yeah.
like just you knowing that you're recording like changes something. And you could say that the exact same for recording music.
Right.
Like,
because once again, there's a purpose behind it.
Yeah, there's a purpose behind it. So you think about it differently, and you're.
I wonder if that should be a marital therapy thing for couples.
Whoa.
You know, like sit down and do a podcast. It might help your marriage if you're struggling with your marriage. Whoa. You'll talk on a deeper level.
Totally.
It may cause you to say things that maybe you wouldn't have said or hear it in a way.
Yeah.
Because now you're purposely listening instead of opposed to being distracted.
Dude, that's a really good point.
That's what I started
actually.
thinking when you said that. When you said about his wife.
Yeah.
As first place my mind went. It's like couples.
Dude.
It might be therapeutic in a way to.
Yeah.
You know,
to like sit down.
Yeah, to sit down because, you say you're having a conversation, but are they really listening to you?
Right.
And if you're doing it, if you're purposely doing it.
Yeah.
You're purposely listening,
right?
Because you've dedicated your time to this, so you're going to listen,
right?
And
just like in recording,
yeah, maybe you'll hear what they have to say in a different way.
Totally.
Which
I think you would.
Yeah, well, you would think so.
You'd have to.
You at least retain it more. You'd remember the words.
Dang.
Just curious. I've never thought about it.
Neither have I. That's really cool. It makes me want to you should do a podcast with your wife.
Yeah, do a podcast with my wife. We're not having troubles though.
Well, what? But do you have to have troubles?
No, but I was saying I was wondering on the therapy side.
Yeah.
If you're going to a marriage counselor, I wonder if they actually started that, if it would be beneficial.
Right.
Does it actually help, or does it not really matter?
Wow.
But when you said about Jacob and his wife talking, I'm like, huh.
Yeah.
You know, not that they're having problems.
Yeah.
But
Totally.
I just wonder.
Yeah. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it's different for everybody, but I know for me it would be awesome. Like I don't have a wife. I don't have a wife, but I have a girlfriend, and I'd do it.
Yeah.
I would do it, and she's gonna be. I'm gonna ask her today, actually, after we get done with this.
It'd just
She's
be
gonna
interesting.
stoked. It'd be interesting. It'd be so interesting because I mean, I know for me, like, not necessarily recording my voice, but like playing guitar. Like I love playing acoustic guitar. There's like something, and recently piano. I've been taking breaks. I don't know if you've heard. I've been trying to. When I take a break in here, try not to like grab my phone or like get on YouTube. That's what I used to do. I used to get on YouTube.
Distracted by social media.
Yeah, and it would mess. I started to notice that it would mess with my like rhythm.
Right.
You know, especially because if you really need an ear break, but you're really in that rhythm, it would mess me up sometimes.
Kind of like out of sync.
Yeah, exactly. And you'd get back, like, sometimes I would feel tired. Like, I'd get back to mixing, even if it was like 10 minutes of just like stupid scrolling and looking at dumb things, you know? I would get back and I'd feel really tired all of a sudden. It was almost like a slight drain of that flow that I had, or I thought I had.
Especially interrupted.
Yeah, exactly. So what I've been doing lately is when I get to that point, I like, you know, of course, mute everything in here and then go in the piano room and just set a timer for 15 minutes, and I just don't stop playing.
Yeah.
And I don't play piano. I'm not a piano player, but it's really fun to just play and just find stuff.
Therapeutic in a way.
It is. It's absolutely therapeutic. And the funny thing that I've noticed is it's not draining at all. Like like you actually get done and you're like excited because you've just been in this like trance of music.
A moment of inspiration.
Oh, totally.
But rested from what you'd been working on.
Right. Like your ears are hearing differently. So they're taking a break on that like super critical mixing ear brain, whatever. And then you go to just a more like being creative just for creative sake, for no other reason.
Right.
And then I guess like transitioning back to like guitar, it's guitar, like whenever I'm just playing by myself or playing the piano by myself, it's almost like there's no intention, it's just whatever it is. And I always try to do that recording. Like if I play something that I really want to remember because it was really cool, I'll like pull out my phone or something and I'll record. And even that, I can never get that same feeling that I had before whenever that phone comes out. Right. And sometimes it's actually better when the phone comes out. Like it really makes me pay attention to like individual strings and the subtleties of everything. And then you listen back and then, you know, it just kind of like shifts your perspective a little bit.
Right. Yeah. Purpose.
I mean, at the end of the day.
Yeah. It's about having a purpose. Like you mentioned, like singing, or, you know, like an artist goes in and singing, you know, they're not out there just to stand in front of a microphone. There's a purpose.
There's a purpose for it. And like an intention of like, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
Just like sitting down with your wife or sitting down with me and you.
Yeah.
Like we kind of have an intention of like, all right, we're going to talk.
Yeah. If
whatever that means.
Yeah. If you're going to take the time to do it, you know, then it's different than just passing by or impromptu conversation starts that you didn't mean to, but it just kind of is what it is and passes on.
Totally. So cool, man. So cool. I love all that. We're going to take a quick break in this podcast to talk about the sponsor of this video, who is this app called Quiztones. I've been using this app for over 15 years now. It's actually how I learned frequency in a cruise ship a long time ago. Anytime an engineer asks how to get better at engineering or listening or learning frequencies, I always recommend this app because it's awesome. So today, Danny's still with me, still here, and we are actually going to take one of these tests together so you can kind of see what it's like, and it'll be a fun challenge to see if we can get all of them right. So that's the goal. So we're going to be working together as a team and trying to get a perfect test.
Yeah,
we'll see how far we go. So we're in the app now, and you should be able to see it on the screen. So we're actually going to go here to EQ, and what this does is it boosts random frequencies, and you have to guess where that center point of the frequency is. So you have all these options: drums, acoustic guitar, electric bass. You can even import your own audio, but we're just going to go down to piano, and we're going to do easy. unless we want to go for expert. No, we're going to do easy. We'll do easy. So we're going to go to begin quiz. And basically, you can see on the screen, I can hit play. Let's turn it off. I can hit play. And it's going to play a loop of a piano. And then I hit this on-off button to turn on that frequency boost, almost like turning on an EQ. And we have to guess what that frequency is. All right? So here we go. I'm going to play and do a couple, and I'll stop it.
Okay.
It's either 5 or 250. I don't know.
Let's
go with your first. Let's go with your first.
I'm thinking more that I thought about. Listen to it, 5, but you can try the 250. See what it happens.
That's what it was. Okay, cool. So hard.
It could be the 16. I'm still going to lean to the 8, but
okay. Well, I'm gonna override you.
Okay.
I'm going to 16. Yeah.
4.
Yeah. 4 is such an. I hate that frequency.
Oh yeah,
it's my least favorite.
And on the old graphics, 3.6K. Pull that down just a bit, please.
Yep.
My first thought was 250, but now I'm starting
right.
to second guess myself into 125. But
125 it is. Yep.
Yeah,
that's right. Sweet. Yeah, totally. Oh no!
Wrong.
Dang
Is
it!
it
That's
2K?
what I thought. It's 500.
500.
It's.
I was gonna say it can't be 2K. 500.
Well, kids.
How many did we get right?
So we actually got a good score. We got 825 out of 1,000. So we got an 82%. So that's actually that's really good.
I guess that's not bad for my first time playing.
Yeah, that's not bad.
That sucks though, but still.
It does suck a little bit. So.
But
I just said that
it's actually like a video game.
It is like a video game. It's really fun.
Yeah.
It's super fun. So that being said, I have been using this for a long time, but I haven't used it
I've
lately.
never even seen it before.
Yeah,
or heard it.
I kind of surprised him on this one. So anyway, if you're anything like me, you're realizing that you need to do this more. So definitely click the link in the description. Go grab the app and play with it. It's fun, and I've never done it with another person, so this was actually kind of fun to go back and forth.
It is fun.
It was cool.
It'll let the other person distract you and second guess yourself.
I know. In a way, it kind of makes you. It's like harder because you're not. Because I'm thinking about you, and you know.
Right. And then someone says something, it plants that thought. And well, shoot.
I know. It's so much fun. Awesome. Well, thanks, Quiztones. Go grab it. Well, dude, I want to talk to you about how you started in, like, I know all these stories because we've talked about it so much, but I want to talk about, like, how you started building your own analog gear and, like, where that bug came from, because I think it's the coolest story ever, and mainly because I can relate to it. I had a different, when I was younger, a different perspective, avenue. But I could just see it, back like whenever you were a kid.
Yeah, it seems like, I've read articles about different guys, how it happened with them, and surprisingly, there's been a few that's similar, to my
that
stories.
You found?
Yeah, similar, not necessarily exactly.
Yeah.
But they, came from a musical family. That seems to be a real common thing. And tinkering with stuff or whatever. Where mine, as a kid, a little bitty kid, like 5 years old, my parents took me to those, as I said, those gospel singings.
Oh, yeah.
And I would see these, back then, even in gospel music, they had bands. Well, they're coming back, but
I almost can't imagine that, kind of.
I know.
Just from I haven't done stuff recently live. But,
yeah, it's kind of weird, but
it's good. It's good coming back.
Right, yeah. I mean, still a lot of people use tracks, but but at any rate, I'd get home and I'd hear those songs on my parents' stereo or their radio. Mom had a radio in the kitchen, set up on top of the fridge, and then they had a stereo in the living room, and my sisters had stereos. They had them in the bed. My parents had one in the bedroom. So, music all over around the house, and I would hear these same songs, and it sounded like the same people, at least for a 5-year-old.
Right. Totally.
So, I was like, well, how'd they get in there? How'd they get so little, So, I'd take the radio, and this was at a time where solid state was coming out, but tube was still very much a thing. Tube stereos and tube radios.
In the
stuff.
Radio?
Oh yeah, very much. Still, I can remember a
I didn't
Zenith.
really think about that.
A Zenith, tabletop radio that my parents had tubes in it, and the back of it's the molding is plastic case, but the back of it's kind of like like masonite wood with a bunch of holes in it, and so it could ventilate.
Right, right.
And
interesting.
So I'd take them apart because I was looking for a tiny stage with tiny people with tiny instruments.
Right.
And of course, they're not in there. So I thought maybe they ran. Maybe they ran out of that one. Because
you didn't catch them in time.
Yeah, because I didn't take it apart while it was on. I at least had enough sense to unplug it. So I thought, well, maybe they ran out of that one. Yeah. Because I'd hear them. I'd go turn this one on, and they're there. I'll take that one apart. And right. It's like they weren't in there either. And what I found was, all these devices, and like sometimes if it was a solid state radio, I seen, transistors and stuff. If it was a tube, obviously I seen tubes, but they all had, capacitors and resistors and so on, and transformers, and I'm like, well, what is this stuff? I can't imagine they're all just running from radio to radio.
Right. Yeah.
I didn't see them run out like a mouse.
Right.
So my parents back in that day, my mom would take my sisters to the library, and I'd have to tag along because I'm just a little kid, and I'd go to the engineering section in the local library looking for engineering books. So it's like,
I didn't know this part.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Oh,
that makes so. I think I was actually missing a part.
Yeah.
Because that makes more sense.
Yeah. So my sisters, they were older than me. I had 2 older sisters, so they'd be checking out books, something that they would be interested in. It might have been for school, even though it would have been grade school, but still might have been. I don't remember really what they were there for, but so I'd go to engineering, and of course back in that time, engineering books, they also had a lot of photos. It's all black and white, but there'd be photos,
right,
as well as all the text. And I would check out books that was 2 and 3 inches thick. I'd get the ones that looked the most interesting and had the pictures that resembled things I seen the most common. And I would check that book out, and I would go home and I would read it, and I would look at the stereo that I've tore apart, and I would compare, and I would learn. I learned what resistors and capacitors were. I didn't still at that moment didn't know. I at least could identify and say that's a resistor. Mm-hmm. Now the whole Ohm's law and the values by the color code, I didn't know that yet, but I learned it.
At least
I knew what that thing was. Right.
Yeah.
So then I learned Ohm's law and stuff, and because it's like, what's all the colors mean? And of course, as you read the books, I had to get some books that was not quite so in depth because bigger engineering books don't deal with the basics.
Right.
So that would cause me to go back to the library and get different ones, and I basically learned the basics of electronics as a little bitty kid.
It's so crazy, man.
And
you basically gave yourself an education kind of by accident.
By accident, yeah. I didn't know that's what I was doing.
Yeah, right.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
I was looking for people and musicians.
Yeah. Yep.
I wanted to know how in the world is that possible, and so I ended up self-educating myself as a child, and I'm convinced when children are really young that they retain information much more than when you get older, because they've got nothing in their life to distract them, to bog them down.
Right.
Even as a teenager, by the time you hit those ages, you're trying to keep up with this or that, or you're watching girl. That, the girls or cars, or trying to get a job, trying to make money so you can buy your favorite car. Or what?
Your RAM is getting filled up.
Your mind is so filled up with so much information, you're not absorbing it like when you're little.
Right.
And, 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old, I mean, I had nothing to do with my time except this. I mean, I became so intrigued by it. That's all I wanted to do. I didn't have any interest like normal kids. And so it became like a second nature thing, to where, to me, it's like, you don't have to ask a person how do you know how to eat apple pie? You just know.
Right. You just do it.
Because, how long have you been, when did you start learning how to eat apple pie?
Yep.
It's just a thing.
It's like a part of you.
Right. And that's kind of how the whole electronics thing, by being so little and learning it like that, I just don't understand what there is not to understand, I guess.
Right.
Obviously, as technology advances, you do have to learn that. We've come a long way since I was 5 years old.
Totally. And so I have a question on that, actually. The resistors, those are the ones that have the colors.
Yes.
Primarily.
Yeah.
And they're the little lines.
Yeah.
So when you were a kid and you were taking those out, like, were they small like they are now?
Yeah,
they were like the thin.
They were a little bigger than they are now.
Okay.
They were.
But were they that kind of shape, like?
They were
bigger.
Yeah, they were more carbon resistors. Now you use a lot of metal film resistors and stuff, which has a tighter tolerance. But even the carbons nowadays still have the outside edges swell up just a little bit and a little smaller in the middle. Back in the old days, they were just like a little cylinder that it didn't get a little bit bigger on the ends.
Right. It was just like straight.
It was just straight, like a little cylinder with a wire out at both ends.
Okay.
And the tolerances, I'm sure, wasn't more than 5%. I don't remember seeing anything tighter than a 5% tolerance. And the body of the resistor was always a really dark brown.
Okay.
Unless it was a power resistor, which then they were physically bigger.
Of course.
And I would say probably most of those were probably all quarter watt or half watt resistors in general, where now, we get 16th, you can get 16th watt, because back then there was much more current being used.
Right.
Things weren't as efficient as they are today. So why would you have a 16th watt resistor? Right. It would just burn up back, in that age.
So what's the tolerances now?
You can get down to like 1%,
Really?
Yeah. And that means like, from one 100 ohm resistor to another, there will be never more than 1% difference.
Wow.
Between the values.
Yeah.
The greater the tolerances, the more variations it could be. Like a 20% resistor, that's 100 ohms. Yeah. It may not even be really close to 100 ohms.
Right.
And then you put that in a circuit, and then back then it wasn't as critical as it is today, but you put that in a circuit. Well, if you use that kind of tolerance today, some circuits may oscillate. It may not even function properly.
Right. Especially if you replace it.
Right. Back then, things wasn't as precise as it is now.
Yeah.
Some people, think it sounded better back then, and maybe it did in a way, but speakers were designed differently. I mean, the concepts were the same, but the efficiency, speakers was way more efficient because we didn't have amplifiers that could produce 1,000 watts or 500 watts. Even when I was a kid, I mean, I don't even think they had amplifiers that could produce probably more than 100 watts, at the biggest.
Right.
Like I believe like a Altec A7 Voice of the Theater.
Is that
that's
huge...
that big gray box?
And then the horn.
Yeah, and it has the big with the on top of it.
Yep.
I think those were only rated at 100 watts, and I don't think they technically go below 100 hertz. But yet
I never really thought about that.
It sounds much lower than that, and it sounds much louder.
Oh, yeah.
1 watt is a lot louder than people think it is. Like one back in the old days, like a 2 or 3 watt tube radio was, that's playing loud. And it really still is
2
today.
or 3. Yeah.
Because unless you're trying to have a big party, entertain the neighbors.
Yeah.
I would say general listening, casual listening. I'll bet you people aren't ever even getting close to 5 watts.
That's kind of crazy to think about.
You know,
that's how when I bought, I cannot remember the wattage, but my little mini Genelex, whatever series, I don't even remember what the number is. But it's
8030.
I think that's right, 8030.
Yeah.
Whenever I got them, I didn't really think about it because I got them for traveling and stuff. And then when I saw the wattage on the back, it's low. Yeah. It's like 10 or I can't remember. And I was like, oh man, just I didn't really think about it. I was like, oh, these are going to be like quiet, like little quiet computer speakers.
Right.
And the first time I plugged them in, I just could not believe the amount of volume, just pure volume.
Right.
And you have to, or for me, I have to have the pads on those speakers because it's just too scary to have them off just in case.
Yeah. 10 watts is a lot louder than people think it is. Yeah. Now if you're in a concert venue, obviously you need more than 10. But even like a big venue, there's thousands and thousands of watts available, and they're using it. I mean, like in an arena or whatever.
Right.
But they're not using near as much as people would still think it is. I mean, now it's thousands.
They're just having the headroom too.
But the headroom. But people don't typically. I don't know many people that live in an arena. So, I mean, for your average home theater or living room or whatever, your average size room, now if you're doing something with a lot of low end, or the dynamic peaks, but once music has been mixed and, mastered, you lose a lot of those dynamics. So you don't need you don't need that same kind of headroom as you would, say, in a studio here.
Yeah.
You need a lot more.
It's like the dang subs behind this console.
Right.
There's, what is it, 15-inch,
right? It's 15-inch or
15-inch drivers.
Yeah, there are 3 in each one.
Yeah.
So there's two sets of subs, and there's 3 15s in each sub.
I used to know what the wattage was, but I can't remember now.
I can't remember.
We talked about
either.
it a few times.
I forgot now. I don't remember
there's a lot,
what the wattage is on the
1234s. I don't think I noticed those. The top ones.
Yeah, I
just remember seeing whenever those came in, like after we ordered them, we were looking at the specs. I think we were trying to figure out like what was like the headroom,
right?
Like what amount is here.
Yeah, I knew what it was then, but that was a what? Was it 3
Man, almost 3 years ago.
3 years ago, 2 years, 2
3
and a half
years ago from almost 3 from when it was like complete, kind of, from when we did something, when we like did a project or whatever.
Right. Yeah, so I just totally forgot.
Yeah, no worries.
But but it doesn't take a lot of power. So back then, it was, 2 watt, 3 watt, that was pretty common.
Yeah.
And even in the solid state realm, back in the old days, they didn't have much. But that's how I basically learned electronics was being inspired by hearing people I heard.
Yeah.
I seen them on a stage. I was there, and it's like, how'd they get in there?
Totally.
Never thought about how would they get in everybody's,
Of course,
I'm just a kid, 5 years old,
Dude, I don't remember how old I was. I was probably like, I don't know, probably 5. I was probably around the same, 5, 6, something like that.
Where curiosity really begins.
Yeah. And you start like really thinking about stuff. Like, because before you're kind of just in la la land.
Right.
And then there's a moment. I remember that there's like a time around that age in my life where I was just curious. I started to become really curious about just anything.
Anything
and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I remember it was, I don't remember the TV show. I think it was Thomas the Train or something. I'm pretty sure.
Thomas the Tank?
No, Thomas the Train.
Was there a Thomas the Train? There was Thomas the Tank, which was a train.
Oh, is that?
Thomas the Tank, it's a little blue train.
Oh,
I think I can.
Oh, yeah. That was called Thomas the Tank.
I think it was. Maybe
I think you might be right. Is a tank a train?
Well, I don't know. I don't think so.
Or maybe it's a type of train.
Maybe. I don't know. Is the blue little cylinder?
The blue, yep. And he had like a face, like a...
Yeah, and there's other trains that had faces, and they would talk, passing each other. One of them, I think it was called Percy.
Yeah, Percy. Yeah, yes. Oh, my gosh.
I'm remembering most of this because of my grandchild.
Oh, totally.
One of my grandchildren.
Totally. Because it was like that time.
But when I was a kid, that was still there. Mostly it was the little train that could. I think I can.
Which I think that kind of was inspired by
I think it was.
But yeah, I remember like mine was a TV, you know, because TV was we didn't really listen to the radio. I mean, my mom did, you know, in the car and stuff. But I remember I had this, it was like a bear, and it was like a Thomas the whatever trainer tank bear.
Yeah.
And it must have been doing some kind of infrared thing. I'm not really sure how it worked, but it knew, like when you would play or be watching the show or whatever, it would respond to the TV.
Oh, wow.
And it could have just been like random. I don't know, but it seemed like it knew somehow.
Like they were interacting.
They were. Because like something would happen, like Thomas would get over the hill, you know? He'd be like, oh, and he'd get over the hill. And the bear would be like, good job, Thomas. And it was like a little speaker in there.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
Yeah, it was a special. I got it for Christmas. I was so excited. And I just remember like looking at this bear.
How does it know?
How does it know? Like, because I knew, even that young, I knew the bear wasn't real. But I thought that there was small trains inside the TV. And it was like, I thought that it was like projecting it somehow. Because you know when you're in, or when I was in school, we had a, what were those things called? It was like it was like a projector kind of.
Oh, the slides where you put the little square slides in it?
Not those. It's like, it's that exact concept, except for you have a big like light.
Oh, the overhead
rectangle.
Transparencies.
Maybe.
The overhead. You put the transparent.
And it goes.
And the light. Yeah. Yep. And the light projects it.
Yep. So you could print stuff on clear sheets, and then teachers would use that and they'd mark on
overhead transparencies.
Overhead transparencies. Yeah. So we had those. I don't even remember why I just brought that part up.
Well, you was talking about something about the interaction in Thomas and the bear.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So in my brain, like that projection was like small sheets of paper, and then it would get really big on the wall, you know, on the projector screen.
Right.
So I thought inside the TV there must be tiny little trains that are real, because I thought they were real.
Like it was being filmed.
Yeah, like it was being filmed, and there was a light behind them, and it would like make it bigger inside the TV. And then this bear was somehow talking to it, but I knew the bear wasn't real. It was just, I just remember being confused. And then especially when cartoons came on, that was like kind of a cartoon, but real cartoons came on, like Mickey Mouse or whatever.
Right.
I just could not, that was in my brain, I could not like figure it out. I knew that they were in there. I knew that. You know, I knew they were in there, kind of like you.
Right.
I knew the musicians were in there, but I just couldn't. I did not know how it worked. But I didn't have that part of my brain to like take it apart and find them.
Well, what would have been funny, you know, is because I hadn't heard that story before.
Yeah.
What would have been funny is if on the bear part would have been if you did think somehow it must be real, where you didn't think it was. And you took it apart and you became a doctor or something.
Oh,
that would have been a crazy story.
That would have been crazy.
You know, it's like, I took a bear apart because I thought it became alive because it reacted.
You became like a heart surgeon or something.
Yeah, and you become some type of a doctor or something. Totally. That would have been hilarious.
That would have been hilarious. You would have never found out.
No, I would have probably never known.
We would have met each other. But that would be crazy.
That would be.
I wonder, like, how many people's stories start off that way in other things.
Right,
you know?
where their career led to something crazy in their childhood.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
I know, like, for me, I've read a few. I can't remember any people's names off just from memory, but that have had a similar experience. You know, not exactly the same.
Right. But a curiosity that was in that realm.
Yeah. And you know, they become kind of electronic minded, if you will.
So cool.
So
cool, dude. So now you gave yourself an education, which I didn't know that. That's so cool, actually. And especially because, like, what if your mom never went to the library? Like, you probably wouldn't have found out. So it's kind of a cool
if she'd have been one of those moms that didn't, because we used to go like every week.
Yeah.
So I would check out.
I never went to the library.
I would go through the whole book. I got a week. I mean, I could have kept it longer, checked it out for longer, but my mind was like, I got a week.
Right.
I got to
take it back.
I got to, so I was kind of obsessed. And then next week I turn that one in and I find me another one.
Wow.
So I absorbed an awful lot of information.
Which now it makes a lot more sense Like just that little piece. So now let's go to you started building radios.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm actually really, now that, this is so, I'm glad we're having this conversation because I'm wondering what that gap was. Like, how did you go from learning, like obviously you went into this super deep dive learning and then you just started building stuff.
Yeah, what it first was it was stereo, like amplifiers and stuff. Like my sister would, my oldest sister, she would have music playing in her room, and like what I had to play through wasn't as powerful as hers because she's older,
So she got the cool.
Yeah, and
one.
I've just got a bunch of stuff that I've taken apart, broke and blew up, and
They're not. Your parents aren't buying you any.
No, they're not buying me anything because I'm taking stuff apart.
Right.
I mean, some of it I would actually literally destroyed. But some of it I didn't. I would fix it, or I remember shorting stuff out and flipping the breakers at the house, and lights go out, and because I'd shorted it out.
Yep.
But I was getting aggravated because like I wanted something more powerful than hers. So I'd go grab another stereo because my parents would replace whatever I destroyed. They'd buy another one, and so I'd go get it, and I'd want to make it more powerful. So I had this era of that part of that, and that didn't last too long because the CB radio craze, and some people may not even know what that is, but
I know just from truck drivers.
Right? Yeah, that was there was a time where that was as popular as anything. It was, I mean, like more popular than phones in a way.
Yeah.
Wow. And everybody had them. I mean, they made songs about it. They made movies about it. Smokey and the Bandit.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. I've never really put that together.
Right. That was all about. It wasn't about CB radio, but I mean, that was a very
big part of it.
And
dang,
my parents bought CB radios, and at that time, the maximum number of channels you could have was 23 channels. CB radios became so popular, the FCC increased the number of channels to 40. And so the first one I had was 23 channels, and some of them, the older ones, only maybe have 6 channels in them. Some really old CBs. And then my parents got a 40 channel, and then there was what they called sideband, single sideband SSB, and I this thing about making it more powerful, so I would
like
get
more
in there,
powerful to go further.
Yeah,
is that the idea?
A longer distance to transmit the signal further.
Okay, right.
Because by law they were limited to some places it said 4 watts output, some said 5. So we'll say 4 to 5 watts. But that was the maximum under FCC regulations that you were allowed to have the power.
Right.
And
what's that range roughly?
It would depend on the antenna and the environment. Like back in the old days, like they had this thing what they called skip, and it was sunspots, and it still happens today, but we're just not affected by it because we don't do it this way anymore. But the weather conditions affect an RF transmission, how far it can transmit that signal. And then, of course, if your antenna, the height of your antenna, which there was limits to that, like the tip of for like a home station, a base station, the limits were 60 feet for the tip of a ground plane antenna.
Okay.
And a beam antenna was 20 feet because a beam antenna focuses the power in a specific direction.
Gotcha.
And you'd have a device. Yeah, the one standard ground plane, it's kind of 360 degrees.
Right.
So it won't go out as far because the energy's going 360 degrees. That's why you could be a little higher. But with a beam, it's focused, and you could actually use a rotor, and you could move it.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Outside, it'd be moving around.
I bet it was a big old knob.
Yeah,
too.
It was a big old knob. Yeah. And so I was getting obsessed with the whole CB radio thing, and then I increased that. Then they had what they called linear amplifiers, which was an amplifier that was designed for ham radio use. Because ham radio, you could higher wattages depending on frequency, the band that you're operating in.
Yep.
And like ham radio, there's a 2-meter band, a 10-meter band, and so on. Well, CB radio was right around 11 meters. So it's just above the 10-meter band. And so they limited it because they didn't want you to interfere with ham radio operators, because to get a ham radio license, you had to take a test. For CB radio, you just had to apply for it. Anybody could get it.
Yeah, yeah.
So they regulated it because
you can interfere.
You could interfere.
Okay.
And so they didn't want you doing that. But, people started figuring out they could buy amplifiers that was at 10-meter band, and you could modify those over to 11 and put it on the output of your radio, your CB, and transmit for hundreds of miles.
Whoa.
I mean, I remember as a kid one time with this one linear amplifier that I'd modified, and this was when I was about 13.
Okay.
And
so you were like a pro by now.
Yeah, I knew electronics pretty good.
Yeah.
12, 13, around that era. I'd say 13 is really when I got in trouble. I was probably more like 10 or 11 when the CB radio thing started. 13 is when I got in trouble with the FCC. But I had I was doing this to my own and stuff, and then I had people at church and neighbors and stuff wanting me to repair their stereo systems, but also CB radios and modify them and putting channel, making it where it could talk above channel 40 or below, which is all against the law.
All illegal.
All illegal.
But you're a kid.
But
too.
I'm a kid.
You don't know.
Well, I did.
But
But what are they going to do to me, right? I'm a kid.
Right.
I'm just having fun.
Right.
And I started actually, making money off of this, and I would use the money. I mean, what are you going to, 10-year-old, what are you going to do? I mean, if this is your obsession, you're not going to go buy other stuff with money. You're going to buy more of this stuff with your money because that's what you want to do.
Right.
You're not looking for another train set or something. And so I was doing that and started making. I wasn't trying to make money, but I started making money. I started actually making pretty good money. And so I was buying, I put a tower up in our backyard, put it up 40 feet high, put beams antenna on top of it, which I'm 20 feet above the limit. And I put a ground plane up, but peak was 90 feet high, 30 feet above the limit there, And I'm just having a great time and buying power meters and stuff and frequency counters and more test gear, buying oscilloscopes. And, because I'm just ate up with electronics.
And you're making money off of fixing
I'm making money off of fixing people's stuff.
Yep.
And, at that era, a lot of kids, were like kind of maybe being influenced by some of the bad neighborhood kids, start smoking or whatever.
Yep.
I couldn't care less about any of that, And all I cared about was my bicycle that I could ride to the electronics store to buy more parts if my mom would take me a lot. I remember she'd always tell the guys behind the counter, said, I'd rather him be doing this than out doing drugs, drinking. So she was supportive in that to an extent.
Yeah.
But she didn't really realize
what you were doing.
What I was doing. Yeah. She didn't know I was technically breaking the law.
You were being silly and making stuff.
Yeah. And so I remember I'd got this one amplifier, I modified it, and I had a power meter that would measure 2,000 watts. That was as high as it would measure. And I had this one amplifier, I got it going, and it was pegging the meter. You hear it, tink, hit. It was over 2,000 watts. To this day, I don't know what it was putting out.
Right.
I just know
a lot.
At 13 years old, it was putting out well over 2,000 watts of power.
Wow.
And, it's great. This is exciting.
It's what you wanted.
Oh, yeah. More power. Kind of like the Tool Time show,
Yep.
The har, 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 So I was doing all that, and I remember once when I was a kid, I was talking, and I when you do what they called skip, you didn't use your license number. Like I can't remember what mine were now. it's KAMD something, but I can't remember. But you would never use that because it's illegal. You're not,
Yeah.
And I used one that was 442. I don't know why, but that was the one I used. And I remember, and I heard a guy in another language, heavy accent, say 442. He could hear me, and that's all I know he said. I don't know what else he said because he was speaking another language. And it was a very strong accent. But I could clearly understand him saying 442. And then I would respond and he would repeat it, but I don't know what he's saying. He could speak my language, obviously, but I'm just a kid.
Right.
I'm like 13 years old at this point. I don't know. I mean, whoa. I certainly haven't been studying much in school. I'd go to school. I'd be
doing your own school.
Yeah, I'm ticked off going to school. It's like, this is a waste of my time. Who needs to learn this stuff?
Right.
And so I don't know where I was talking to. I don't know. It was another country. And of course, could happen.
And where were you at? This is Oklahoma,
I was in Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma City.
Yep.
The middle of the country.
Middle of the country, yeah.
And then,
gosh. So, I don't know. I mean, I don't even want to speculate where I was talking to.
Right.
Because, like I said, they had what they call skip, and when the conditions are right, an RF signal could travel much further than it would typically travel. It's kind of like the perfect storm.
Yeah.
And this was one of those times, and you know when it's happening because you hear further away. You're able to talk to states much further away than what you typically could. But I'd never had this happen.
Right.
And so it was shortly after that, and of course it was also beam antennas, higher elevation.
Yep.
I don't remember which direction
all
I was
illegal
pointing.
Stuff.
Everything.
Basically.
And my neighbor across the street got mad at me and got chewed my parents out, said I blew their television up because they heard my voice come over their TV really, 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 really loud, and their TV went blank and it messed their television up. And it's probably because I had pointed the beams right across. And back then, that's when people, we didn't have cable TV. Everybody used an antenna.
Yeah, so they were picking up.
So I shot all this power into it.
Whoa.
And I'm assuming it messed up their receiver. I don't know. I just know they were upset.
Yeah,
they were very
overdrived it probably.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, because it wasn't very far across the. I mean, right across the street.
Yeah,
and I have way over 2,000 watts of power, and like in measured of decibels in gain, like depending on the beam antenna you have. You can add several 20, 24 dB of gain to your signal, which is a lot.
Yeah.
And like this was what they called it. It was a Moonraker 4. It's 4 elements. It's like a T called Moonraker. It's a bar goes across, and then there's like an element going up and down, like vertical and horizontal, and there's 4 of them spaced apart. And then there's the mast that hooks to the motor, hooks to the tower, and that whole thing turns.
That's crazy.
And they're big.
Yeah.
I mean, they're huge.
Yeah.
They don't look that big up in the air, but you bring them down, they're massive.
Like, whoa.
And so, I mean, I didn't live in an expensive neighborhood, so they like, what in the heck?
What is that?
And there was other people had, and not like this.
Like
this
that,
was just over the top.
Yeah.
But so it was sometime after that, my radio, I had my own radio room, and it set. I had it all set where it's in front of a window, kind of like what you were describing, Jacob.
Yeah.
And it was on a Saturday, and I'm sitting there, and a white Nova pulls up, and something just said, "That's the FCC." Now there was no signs, there was no reason for me to think it.
Yeah.
Other than I just had this feeling it was the FCC.
Probably just something so out of place.
Right. And it was on Saturday, and it was April Fool's Day. It fell on a Saturday.
Whoa.
And I'm thinking, would they come out on a Saturday, April Fool's Day? I'm 13 years old. What does a 13-year-old know? And 2 guys get out of the car, and they look like insurance salesmen. That's what it made me think of. And one of them's carrying like a briefcase. So I'm thinking, what could be insurance salesman, but would they be out on a Saturday?
Right.
And something here saying it's the FCC. So I'm scrambling. I'm disconnecting all of my as much
Oh my
as the
God,
stuff
you went
as
into
I
like
can.
recovery mode.
Oh
like
yeah, I got to hide this stuff.
Right. Yeah.
I'd rather hide it all and be the insurance salesman than it would be if it was the FCC.
Right. Well, they're gonna take all your stuff away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where my mind is. I got to
Yep.
hide this stuff. It's
Yep.
valuable. You know,
Yep.
I had enough sense to know I shouldn't have it. So,
That's
you
good.
know, I'm disconnecting everything as best I can, hiding it, sliding it under the bed, you know. You ain't got much time. And I hear the door in my room. I could go to the door of my room and I could look around the corner and I could see the front door of the house. So I looked over there and my mom answers the door and they flip out these badges and they were gold color, but with like a half white, half red, and half blue to kind of create a square, 3 quadrants.
Yeah.
And it looked like plastic, but it was probably some kind of, you know, I'm sure it wasn't plastic,
yeah,
the
like
red,
metal.
white, and blue part.
Yeah.
And they said they were with the FCC and they were here to see the radio room.
Oh my gosh.
I ran back, still trying.
Yeah.
So I my mom takes them in there, you know, and goes around the corner and brings them in there. And I've got cables hanging over the counter and stuff, you know. I mean, you could tell. I mean, anybody could tell. Somebody been moving a lot of stuff really fast.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
And so they, you know, they open up their briefcase and open up, and of course there's a frequency counter in there, a power meter, and I don't know what all it was. I'm 13 years old. I had enough sense to know what some of it was. And they hook it up to this one radio that I had sitting there, a tube. It was a tube CB radio, and and I had modified it. It was only a 23 channel radio, but most CB radios had a what they call RX TX switch. Yeah, RX increased how far it receives.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And I had modified all that, and I've made that when you flip that switch, it would change the frequencies. Like channel 1 wouldn't be that frequency anymore. It would be a whole nother bank of frequencies when you flip that switch. So 1 through 23 might be, for lack of a better word, we'll say 41 through 63.
Like a different bank.
A whole different bank of frequencies.
Wow, okay.
But until you hit that switch, it's normal.
It's normal, yeah.
And so they're hooking it up, you know, and they're poking around, and you know, I can see the frequency counter reading out, and you know, they're doing stuff, and I'm thinking they ain't gonna figure this out, you know. And then I see that it's like slow motion. I see a finger going to that switch. Oh no! But I can't do nothing.
Right.
They flip it and then they key up the mic and wham! Oh no, I'm busted. You know, now it's those other frequencies, and they're going through it and they're documenting it. You know, pencil and paper. Had their little pad thing, opening it up, making notes and all that, and measuring the output. And they're like, okay, they verified this, but where's all the power coming from? You know, this part wasn't illegal power-wise.
Right.
A little bit, but nothing severe. And so they start looking around the room, you know, and looking at different things and, you know, hook it up and, you know, they know there's something, you know. And so they get on their hands and knees, pull the bed sheet up, and, of course, there's tons of stuff I'd shoved underneath there. And they pull out this one. It's about this big, about this wide, about that tall, about this deep, and you know, it's got big old tubes in it. They pull it out and they set it there and plug it in, hook it up, let the tubes warm up, power it up. Bam! Same thing happens to them. You know, they make notes. You know.
Oh no!
And anyway, they get all done and they wrap their stuff up and they're walking out, and I'm kind of following them. My dad was at work. My mom's following them, and they.
Did they take it?
They didn't take anything.
Oh, okay.
Not
okay.
this.
Yeah.
There's another time I got it.
Yeah.
This time they didn't take nothing, and they just told my mom. They said, "Well, you'll be hearing from us in a few months." And I'm thinking, what does that mean?
Yeah.
You know, and of course, you know, when 13 years old, a month is eternity.
Right.
And so, you know, a month goes by, you don't hear nothing. Another month goes by. Another month goes by. I'm thinking, oh, they forgot. They lost it.
Right.
You know, I'm free and clear.
Yep, you got this.
I don't
now.
know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But before that time was up, there was the Daily Oklahoman, which was the local newspaper there was an article had my dad's name in it talking about this, but they didn't put my name in it because back in that time you couldn't you couldn't say stuff about a minor.
Oh, really?
Like yeah. Like if a minor's done something illegal, they had rights.
Right.
Like you can't put that out there for the public. I mean, you could still be in trouble, but you couldn't publicize that. But they had
used your
my dad's name. Yeah, there was an article about that, but that came out a few days after that, like a couple of days later. Might have been the very next day. But, a few months goes by, nothing happens, and I'm thinking, that's all? That's all that happened?
Yeah.
No big deal.
Yeah.
I had, up until a couple of months, I was treading carefully. I was trying to behave myself, but as time went on, I couldn't resist it,
Yeah.
And about 6 months, they get a letter from the FCC, my parents do. And it was a $500 fine, and
which that's a lot.
That's a lot of money. I'm 62.
What like time was this?
Well, I'm 62. I was 13. So, what is that? I was born in 62. Wow, that's weird. I was born in 62, and I am 62.
Hey,
that's weird. I never even thought about that till just now.
Yeah,
I've been 62 all this time, and I've never even.
There's something about that.
I never even put that together.
Yeah. That's kind of awesome.
Yeah, because I'll be 63 here in a couple of months.
Well, I'm glad you. I mean,
so wow,
cool.
That's interesting. I kind of thought I'd lost my mind for a minute when I said that.
Like, but anyway,
so 62 would make me. What would be? Well, 13. I mean, I was 13, so that would have been 75
ish. 75-ish.
75.
Okay.
1975. $500 fine in 75 was a lot of money.
Probably a lot of money. Oh, yeah.
I mean, a $500 fine's still pretty hefty today.
Totally.
I wouldn't want one.
No, me neither.
Think about if you were speeding and got a $500 speeding ticket. That's a big ticket.
Yeah, that sucks.
Even today, that's a big ticket.
Oh, yeah.
So my parents were a little upset.
I'm sure.
And but they told me, they said, well, you're going to have to pay for that. And I was like, that's no big deal.
Yeah. I just fix some stuff.
I'll make that $500 in less than a month. So they didn't teach me a lesson.
Right.
I mean, it should have.
Yeah, but you're a kid.
But I'm 13 years old.
And you don't think of money the same way. You don't have the history of it.
No, and I mean, I could make $500 in less than a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If
I typically wouldn't have done that because I'm not trying to do that. But
but you can.
I got to. I'm going to have to dedicate myself to fixing people's radios and stereos and find more people to make the radio illegal.
Your neighbor's TV.
Yeah, they didn't make me pay for that because they couldn't prove it.
Yeah.
But rather than I would go out and make people's radios illegal and use that money to pay for my ticket.
For your ticket,
which is actually wrong.
Illegal.
That's against the law.
Right.
I'm breaking the law.
Right. Again.
Kind of like a drug addict, I guess.
Kinda,
a drug dealer.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm in trouble. You got in trouble and you use the same method that got you in trouble to get you the money to get you out of trouble.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's I'm an electronic holic, I guess. So anyway.
Electronic holic.
Yeah. So I did that.
To sleep.
And
go ahead.
So the console went to sleep too.
Wake up.
Okay. So I did that, and so everything was fine. And as I started getting older, 15, I lost a little interest in that aspect of it. I wasn't really interested in that anymore. I was more into stereos and getting a car.
Of course.
And so I bought me a car when I was 15 and went to work for a stereo shop. So I started doing more like legal stuff. I was doing
more legal stuff.
I was doing car installs like in Ferraris and stuff, custom, like back in the day where, people would put in big Alpine systems and and we'd go in and do all the modify the interior of cars for the speakers to be optimum and the boards in the trunk with all the amps and the wires all nice and all that. Was doing all that stuff, and I was repairing stereos, like home stereos and car stereos, working for a stereo shop. It was called David's Electronics. It was up on North May in Oklahoma City. So I was staying out of trouble from that perspective, and I was using that money to I want a new Z28, so I bought me a new Z28 Camaro, and then I had to have the biggest, baddest stereo, and so, I was doing stuff like that, and, then had the girl crazy stage, and all that.
All the money going away.
Yeah, spending money on, and through all that era, there was video arcades were a big thing, so going to arcades and just being a kid, being a teenager, but still in electronics, making money from fixing stuff and whatnot. And I started getting more interested back into the music side of it, but I also still had this RF obsession, transmitting.
Right, like wireless.
Yes. And I kind of, it was actually, I kind of got ahead of myself, but, when I was a kid, I thought having a cordless phone would be great.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
I thought that would be cool as crap, to have a cordless, not a cell phone, a cordless phone.
Right, a cordless, which didn't exist at all.
No.
You were stuck to the long...
You had to have a long cord.
Yep, the long cord.
And I always thought that was cool. And I kind of got ahead of myself. This is like before I was 15. Between 13 and 15, and I built this... it was kind of big and bulky, as a prototype.
Yeah,
but I built this, and it worked. It was a cordless phone,
That's so crazy. So you basically invented a cordless phone in your house for fun.
Right.
When you were 15 years old.
Yeah, well, I was actually probably more like 13 and a half, 14.
It's so crazy.
And it worked. And I used a touchpad. Back in the day, they had rotary phones and touchpad phones. And, of course, I used a touchpad.
Was still you're talking about
the buttons. Beep, beep,
yeah.
Versus
the... Right.
We all had, our home, we all had the but I found a touch tone phone, and I took parts out of it, and I used that to control it. And but it was big. I mean, it was, it was exposed. There was wires and stuff. It wasn't all sleek.
Right.
But it worked.
Like it turned into.
Yeah, it worked. I mean, the one part was big, like the early, bigger than the early day cell phones.
Right.
It was bigger than that. Yeah, it was bigger than that because my touchpad was wide.
That's so crazy.
So, but it worked, and then just as a kid, I'm thinking, well, this would cost hundreds of dollars. Who would pay that? Just get a longer cord.
Right.
That's where my mind was. I thought, well, that's stupid. But okay,
but cool.
It's cool. But for me, it was because like I said, it was exposed. You had to hold it carefully.
Yeah.
But I thought, well, if I did, manage to encapsulate this in an enclosure, it would still be big and bulky. But it wasn't even that. It was the expense. I'm thinking this would cost, in my mind at that time, $400 or $500.
Yeah.
Who's going to pay $400 or $500?
Right. For a phone.
For a phone.
When they could just have a cord.
Longer cord. I mean, after all, you could take a longer cord, go out to the patio, go from room to room. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So I scrapped that. I thought, that's dumb.
Little did you know.
Little did I know when I was 18 years old, I paid $349 for a cordless phone.
Did that make you semi-angry?
Yeah.
A little bit? Yeah.
And my parents weren't the type of parents that seen that creativity. My dad worked at worked at the place that was in charge of the Oklahoma City Public Schools.
Oh,
he was a maintenance guy. Yeah, it's called the Board of Education.
Yeah.
And my mom didn't work, and so they're just your average family. I mean they didn't see, hey, my mom just seen I was. Up until the FCC, I was staying out of trouble.
Right.
And
not
then
doing drugs.
I wasn't doing drugs.
You're doing great. As long as you're not doing drugs.
Right. I'm not drinking and I'm not doing drugs, And even the FCC thing, I'm not going to screw up again, right?
Yeah.
Well, wrong.
Learned your lesson.
But that's what she thought.
Right.
So when I was 18, I opened up a commercial stereo repair shop. We did installs, but mostly repairs for home stereos and whatnot, a little bit of televisions, but I wasn't really interested in that.
Right.
And but this desire to transmit was, I couldn't get it out of my head. But I didn't want to transmit CB radio. I wanted FM radio. I wanted to be
the new thing.
I wanted to
newer.
I wanted to broadcast like what people listen to in their car.
Right.
CB radio was over. That was already gone. That was a thing of the past now.
Right.
You know,
you wanted your own station.
I wanted my own radio station. Didn't know what I was going to do with it, but the challenge, could I do it?
Yeah.
And so have this repair, I mean, I had a couple employees, and it's a legit, storefront repair shop. And there was the building I had a little apartment on the top at the back, and we rented that out to a new married couple. And so it helped pay some of my overhead.
Yep.
But I went and got a tower, went and put up another big old antenna out there.
Oh my gosh.
Just a ground
At your
plane.
business?
Yeah, at the back of the business. And that don't really draw a lot of attention because, a lot of like commercial buildings, they have, for back in the day, they'd have commercial radio talking, construction stuff. But this was a repair place. But still, no big deal. And so I started, scrapping stuff and giving, and I didn't want to go out and buy something. I wanted to make it out of scrap. I wanted to make it out of junk, and you're like, oh, okay, this stereo's not been worth fixing. The client just leaves it. I've got those parts, and maybe a radio over here, maybe a CB radio over there. And you use different aspects of all this stuff and buy a few parts.
Right.
And experimenting, and I built this transmitter. And at this time, cassettes and CDs. CDs was fairly new thing, not brand new, but still a fairly new format.
And not popular, probably.
Not as popular. Cassettes was real popular, and we still used vinyl at that time. And but I didn't have a CD player. Back then I didn't spend my money on it. I spent my money on cars and girls. Or to buy parts to make a transmitter. I didn't care about no CD player.
Right.
Yeah, for a home, I had one in my car.
Right.
If I wanted it, but not. I didn't care. And so, but I had a cassette auto reverse reel switch. You'll play.
Yep.
So I got this, and it was working. But how good is it working? I didn't really have any way to field measure this thing. And I wasn't smart enough to do all the math to really know what this output. And I didn't even have a power meter that would read over 100 watts at the time. So I mean, and I know it's way over that, but what's it doing? And so I'm like, well, I'll wait till really late at night, like 1 a.m, midnight, 1 a.m. And I'll just put a cassette on, and I'll put it where it's playing, where it just keeps playing.
Yeah.
One side, the other side, one side, the other side. I'll jump in my car.
Yeah.
I'll tune in, and I figure, midnight.
Drive.
Yeah, midnight.
Oh, okay.
There ain't nobody going to bother. Ain't nobody going to notice this thing. Because I went down to the lower. Nowadays, there's hardly any frequencies slots available. Back then, there was still a lot of dead spaces.
Yeah.
And I went down to the lower one where it's all non-profit, and just got in my car and took off. And
that's crazy.
It sounds great.
Yeah,
I'm going.
It's working.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm driving towards the northeast side of town. It's crystal clear, and there's the Turner Turnpike. I'll just get on the turnpike, head towards Tulsa. I'm figured first I'm going to lose it. First town I get to, I'll just get off and go back.
Yeah.
It ain't going away. And I get up close to Tulsa, and it starts fading out.
Whoa.
I was, oh,
which is like, what do you think like that
that's
mileage
90
is?
miles.
90 miles?
And I'm thinking, uh-oh.
Yeah.
I shouldn't do this. But I'm thinking, well, it's really late at night. Right. Maybe I won't get in trouble.
Right.
So I head back. I get to Tulsa. It fades out before I hit Tulsa, but it's getting close. I go in Tulsa, turn around, head back, get back, and turn that thing off. And but I still play with it a little bit. I don't just take it apart now. I don't. Right. I still tinker. I don't know what I'm going to do. It's fun.
It's just cool. Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking, maybe people around the neighborhood will hear it,
Right, totally.
It was just fun.
Yeah.
But apparently I played with it a little too much, and I got caught again, FCC.
Oh, my gosh.
But this time it's different because I'm 18 years old.
Oh, right. You're not a little kid anymore.
Mm-mm.
Oh, no.
So they lock my place of business up.
Really?
They get a court order, and they lock it up.
Oh.
And
That sucks.
I'm kind of screwed, because I've got customers' radios in there,
right? And you can't touch it.
I can't go in.
Whoa!
So I had to go to court, and of course, they notified, they've got the stuff, and customers who had a claim check, they could get their stereos back. Basically they put me out of business, but they took all of my stuff and all of my goodies, and they were going to. There was discussion about putting me in jail, $2,000 fine.
Yeah.
Which $2,000 fine is a lot of money.
Yeah.
Today, but it's an awful lot of money at 18.
Totally.
And what are you going to do? So they told me, they said they was going to keep all of my stuff, and I said, well, tools of trade. I mean, my soldering iron, my screwdriver. I need that stuff.
Yeah.
So they said, yeah. So they gave me that stuff back at like a regular voltmeter. But my good stuff, all of my good stuff, they kept all of my parts, took all my good stuff, put me out of business, gave me a $2,000 fine.
Wow.
I was very happy to not go
walk
to
away
jail.
And not yeah, exactly.
And that got my attention. I said, I gotta do something different.
Yeah, I gotta calm down.
I gotta let that memory just be a memory.
Right.
So I had to focus myself at 18 on something else. So I thought, well, I need to go back to music. And that's when I started like going out and doing, I'd already done some stuff with live bands, but it was just, I wasn't serious.
Yeah.
Now at 18, after this, I'm going to get serious about live sound and recording and whatnot. And started looking into all that, and I remember calling it, back in the day, they had Atari, ATARI video games.
Yep.
And I remember calling this one place and, about recording equipment stuff. And I'd heard about a brand called Otari, Otari.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought the person told me about it said Atari. So I'm thinking, Atari makes recorders?
Right, yeah. That's what I thought when I first heard that name.
Yeah, Otari.
Yeah. It's like, I didn't know they made studio stuff.
Yeah. So I called and I found out what does a 16-track machine cost? And I was like, oh my God, it's a lot of money. Well, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm working at a stereo shop. So I started putting all my money into that. It's like, and I'm still living at home.
Legal.
I'm still living at home, so I don't have any expenses really. I mean, I got a brand new Z28 car payment, but that's no big deal,
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, I'm going to build a studio. And I'm doing the live sound for bands, going to clubs and stuff. I could only do a certain amount because of 21. You kind of sneak in on some of it. And so I built a 400 square foot addition on the back of my parents' house.
It's cool that your parents, even though they probably had no idea what you were doing, just let you. Sure.
Build they just thought I was staying out of trouble.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Of course, they knew about what happened both times, but, it was like, oh, well, it's not illegal. It's not illegal to record, That's what their mind
thankful.
Is. Yeah.
This is way better.
Yeah.
Do
so,
that.
you want to build a 400 square foot addition on the back of the house?
Yeah.
Okay. So they let me do it. They actually paid for it.
Wow.
I did the construction.
Yep.
I dug the footing by hand and everything.
Wow.
And had a chance to.
So
I actually
cool.
worked.
So cool.
We're in the middle of when I was in the middle of this. I was still working at the stereo shop, and Fleetwood Mac was in town this one particular day, and their stereo on their bus had quit working. And they brought it to the stereo shop I worked at.
Wow.
And I fixed the stereo on their bus.
That's so cool.
And the driver asked me if I wanted to come to the show and then go, hang out backstage and stuff and party. And I thought that'd be great, that'd be cool. But I was obsessed. When I go home, I ain't got time for that. I got to work on this building. I got to get this building finished to build the studio. So I didn't do it.
That's kind of crazy.
Looking back at it now, I probably should have, but whatever.
You were focused, man.
I was very
Didn't
focused.
matter. Didn't matter what the artist was.
No.
Like, you got your own thing to do.
I got to get this building
That's crazy.
finished. Yeah, because I can't record till I get this building finished.
Right, yeah.
And I'm out doing stuff with bands, so I'm building up potential clients.
Right.
I just don't have a place.
Right.
And so...
if you would have had that done, you probably would have went.
I probably would have went. Absolutely.
Like, I got a place.
Because I would have been naive enough to think I might could talk them into recording.
That's what I mean, yeah.
Which probably wouldn't have happened, but
you never know.
But I wouldn't have known that.
Right. Right.
So I was focused and I got it done, and then, I started buying up gear, and my parents helped me. There was a studio that was going out of business, and I'd started with, my first recorder. I started as low as you can get, 2 tracks.
Yep.
Like the old Beatles, ping pong.
Yeah, totally.
And then I graduated to 4 tracks. I had 4 tracks. Wow. Then I had 8 tracks, a Tascam 80-8, 1/2-inch 8-track. I was like, oh man, I'm tall cotton now.
Yeah.
I got me a Studio Master console. Which is.
It's so crazy. Like, it's so crazy to think. I'm just thinking in my brain right now, like I remember whenever I wanted to make my own studio, it was just such a different, because nowadays it's so different, because you were stuck to tapes. Like that was really the only way to do it.
Well, the home computer didn't even exist.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So it is only analog, only tape. You need a console, you need a tape machine.
Yeah.
And nowadays it's really funny because I remember in the very, very, very beginning where I was like, I'm going to build, I'm going to build a studio and whatever. Right. And that, in a lot of ways, you could say is like easier, kinda, because gear is technically cheaper, arguably not better, but to start off with, because you're starting off with a tape machine,
right? It's much cheaper today.
Yeah,
fractions.
Oh, totally. And you can be in any room.
Yeah.
You can be in a living room. You can make it work. You can record. You know.
And if your environment's not perfect, there's so many plugins that you can help.
Oh yeah, totally. Totally. And it's just so I've told you before. I love digital stuff, but I almost wish I would have been born kind of in your era, just because I just loved tape machines. I just always have.
Yeah.
I just think they're so cool and fascinating, and of course consoles.
Of course.
All that stuff. The hands-on physical stuff. It's just I've just been obsessed with it, and so to think of I remember whenever I was thinking about building wanting to have my own studio with my own gear and get clients and stuff, it was like a tape machine was like, I had to be very successful to get that, that was like way beyond.
Right.
And it's just cool.
And it's still expensive today when you compare it to what you could go, was it Mara?
Mara Machines.
Yeah, they redo the old MCI JH series stuff and
rebuild the whole thing.
But even like now, that's cheap compared to what it was, but $12,000 for a tape machine. You think of what you can do computer wise for $12,000 for a home studio,
right. And the value,
what you get out of that $12,000,
right?
Where with the machine, that's all you got. It's a machine, you can't even do anything with it,
right? You just have one thing.
Yeah, but you got to go out and spend a few $100 to get a roll of tape to even use it, and you still can't really do nothing with it,
right? You still need a console.
You got a mic pre's, a console, something micro. You need microphones for the computer and converters and pre's, but you got to. It's a whole different level. I mean, because you can't monitor that back.
Right. Yeah. True.
How are you going to monitor those tracks?
Right.
With the computer, you got it all.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So it's almost like the tape machine's the last thing.
Right. So
it's you got to get everything else, and then maybe you get a tape machine.
Yeah, and like at $12,000, which to me that's a steal.
Oh, dude, I couldn't believe.
But that's
price.
It's
amazing.
That's still a lot of money.
Still a lot, yeah.
And so. But back in the day, a 24-track 2-inch tape machine would be $50,000 or more. That was not uncommon at all.
Which is insane, because that $50,000 back then.
Yeah, it was a lot of money. That's a lot of money today.
Crazy.
It's an insane amount of money back then.
Yeah.
So, that's why, there wasn't as many studios, and, it was expensive to record. I mean, let's face it, you've made a $50,000 investment on one piece of equipment that's worthless.
Right.
Without,
Everything
you
else.
got to spend more than that between just to use the thing.
Right.
So, I started with it too, because I wasn't no rich kid.
Yeah, right. Right.
I mean, my parents actually did have money, but I didn't know they had money because of a whole religion thing that I won't even get into.
Yeah, yeah.
But I don't know that, so
Right.
I'm just poor boy, and so we get to the 80-8 and I'm thinking, I am really, tall cotton here. Now there's still 24-track machines.
Yeah.
It gotten to that point. And then
And the 88, that was 8 channels, right?
eight channel, 8 tracks. Yeah. No locators, no remote. You have to have the machine close by, And so we, then there was a studio going out of business, and it was a 16-track. And it was a Tascam 9016, which is a big console tape machine, 1-inch 16-track. And it had the console and feudal pieces of gear and the wiring harnesses and stuff. And I'd already had some, I'd got some little compressors and, whatnot. And back then, this is, I'd say by the time this era happened, the Yamaha SPX90 was just coming out.
Whoa.
About that time. That was like the coolest thing in the world. Because prior to that, all you had was either plate reverbs or spring reverbs. That's about it,
Yep.
And so this was the beginning of the digital revolution as far as a digital device.
Right.
Which there is noisy as crap, but,
But it's different. It's a new thing.
Yeah, and look at what you got,
All the presets.
Yeah, I can dial in different type of reverb sounds.
Plate and a hall and a room.
Plate and a chorus and delay. Just oh my gosh,
Right.
So I'd gotten I never at that time I didn't buy the SPX90. I waited and I got a Rev 7.
Oh, nice.
Which was the big boy.
Yep.
And I remember
Yamaha.
my first Rev 7 was oh man I've but I only had 16 tracks at that time. My parents helped me buy the 16-track setup, and I'm doing this all behind my parents' house. I built this 400-square-foot room, and I made a drum booth and a tracking space and a control room.
Yeah.
And I'm recording, but I'm not using any of the money for recording. I'm not spending it.
Right, yeah.
As a matter of fact, I didn't even know how much money I had. I just gave them, like people would pay by check, I'd give it to my mom. I had a little account. She would deposit in my little account. And I can't remember what I called the studio, funny enough. That's weird. I cannot remember what I called it. I have no idea. I just thought of that. I never even thought about it.
Day.
I can remember the name of my first commercial studio, but I cannot remember the name of that. My first commercial studio where I went and got a commercial building and was, legit was Cambridge Sound. Cambridge.
I don't think I knew any of the names.
Yeah, it was Cambridge Sound.
That's a good name.
On the south side of town, I had an artist draw this logo thing and all that.
Cool, yeah.
And had it on the door. Cambridge.
That's cool.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought it was a cool name.
Yeah, it's a cool name.
But prior to that, when I was still at the home studio, if you will, I didn't know. And then I ended up getting married, and that wasted a lot of my time and money. Yeah, I mean, I wish I could get that time back. A lot of money went, because she was high profile, high maintenance, and of course, young lad, infatuated, beautiful girl, and she wants to keep all those things that make them, the story. And oh, geez. So.
Just lost all of them.
Oh, my gosh. I lost thousands and thousands of dollars. And ended up getting divorced, had a kid, got divorced, lost my mind,
Yep.
If she had been around earlier, I may not have got in trouble with the FCC. I'd have had a kid at 12 years old.
Right.
But at any rate, so through all that, and so I'm focused now. I was, when I was all about the studio, and then I basically put the studio thing on hold
for that relationship.
Yeah, because nothing mattered.
Yeah,
that's all that mattered was
right.
this.
Yeah,
and so when that all ended, I now I'm back in the studio. I'm serious about it. Still got my little home studio. I'd moved out, but now I moved back. I'm living back at home. What do I need to have my own place? That's just a waste of money.
And you got a studio there.
And I got a studio there. So, hey, I'm back home. So I'm focusing on that again. And my mom, I'm letting my mom put all the money in the bank. She's not keeping it. She's just, and then, I ended up meeting my current wife through all that, but she encouraged me to
do it,
to continue.
Yeah.
And so we,
Which that had to have felt good. From the ladder,
Yeah. She was involved in music. She sang and all that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know she sang.
Yeah, she had a really high voice.
Wow.
I didn't recognize it now, but honestly, that's a lot of people probably think I'm nuts. They'll know who I'm talking about, but like the group called ABBA.
Oh yeah.
The blonde-haired chick.
Yep.
My wife could sing real similar to that.
Like that high.
That tone.
Yep.
Yeah, very, very, very similar.
Interesting. Okay.
But I didn't see it at the time because at that time, for me, ABBA wasn't cool. I was into rock and roll. I mean, I knew of them. I'd heard them when I was younger, when I was 13. I think Dancing Queen might have been popular when I was around 13. I'm not sure, but it was really...
Could be.
I remember...
So that was 70s.
I remember it. I remember that, but, I'm beyond that now,
Right, yeah.
And so, I didn't recognize the talent in my... Actually, I've not even said this to her. I didn't recognize the talent in my wife. I feel bad. I didn't recognize the talent in my own wife at the time because I was so focused on the studio and technology and building the studio and the business and buying gear and recording bands, making money.
Right.
It was the
it was the money thing.
The challenge. It wasn't just about money.
Challenge.
But the money was to buy more gear.
Right.
It wasn't about to make money to buy a Ferrari or to be rich. It was to make the money to buy more gear to make better records. It was to reinvest into that.
Because you had that end goal of what your studio should be.
Right.
Or what you wanted it to be.
Exactly. And I needed more money.
Yeah.
So I wasn't seeing her talent at all.
Interesting.
I mean,
have you ever recorded her? Like in the studio?
Yeah.
Like during that time?
Yeah, this home studio. I recorded her on the 8-track, the Tascam 80-8.
Yeah. Well, at least that happened.
And I used the 414, the old.
Oh yeah, the old one,
the silver with black.
Yep.
I had 3 of those.
Those are sweet.
And I used that and recorded her on that and.
Wow.
Only delay. I had a choice of reverb or delay because I only had at that time I had a spring reverb but no delay, and I wanted delay, so I used my 2-track slap echo delay for that, and I used my spring reverb for the reverb.
Nice, that's cool.
But I never recorded her after that.
Wow,
ever.
So it was kind of for fun. Basically.
It was for fun.
Yeah.
But at that time, see, I didn't recognize. I knew she could sing.
Yeah, right.
But I didn't see what it could have maybe been. If I would have, like a lot of guys in that position, you find a talent, let alone if it's your girlfriend, you put your focus on that. I didn't. I was too focused on, I had to get digital reverbs. I had to get 16 tracks. I got to get 24 tracks. And I had started working. When I had the 8-track, I started working at a local 24-track recording studio, a legit studio.
Yep.
Matter of fact, they were the largest manufacturer and distributor of Christian soundtracks in the entire world. And I was working there, so I'm used to all this high-dollar gear. That's
what you want.
I mean, recording my wife, I didn't see that as an avenue to get me anything, which maybe it could have.
Right. Well, and you were doing that all the time.
Right.
So it was just like another session.
Yeah, it was just another session. Yeah, big deal, right?
Yeah.
So I kept working towards it, and then, of course, got the 16-track, and then me and my current wife, we got married, and it was all. I mean, our first date was she went with me to a recording studio. I had a session, and she went with me to the session and sat behind me on the couch while I did the session. That was our very first date.
That's kind of cool. Before I knew she was a singer, I would say that probably wasn't her best date. But now that might have been kind of cool for her.
It was cool for her.
Yeah, because she could see it, could respect it.
It was
That's why she has a good ear.
Right.
It's all making sense to me now.
Right, yeah.
Wow, because she does. Her ear is really interesting.
Right. We went to a commercial recording studio because I was hired to do this session. So she went with me. I said, hey, I got this session. You want to go? Well, she was interested in music. You know, she sang. And sure. It's funny that now that I say that, that's the studio I bought out for the 16 tracks later.
That's cool.
And
that's cool.
I ended up buying that studio. And so anyway, so it would go on and we get married. And I decided, you know, I mean, this is what I'm doing for a living. I'm working at this one studio, but I've also got my own. And then we end up building a commercial studio. And, you know, we didn't have, I mean, we had old furniture at home, you know.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what the dining room table was, you know, because I wasn't going to put any money. I mean, if you had a place to sit, that's all you needed. I mean, it was so
awesome.
bad. It was so bad that me and my wife, you know, now she's my wife, we didn't have a bed. We slept on foam. Like cushions from like a couch on the, that's what we slept on. We didn't have a bed. The money goes into the business.
Right. Money goes to the studio.
It goes to the studio. We got, you know, we take care of the studio take care of us. But if we take care of us, we won't have the studio. Right. And then we don't have us either.
Right.
You know, and she was supportive.
Totally.
You know, I mean.
That's so cool.
You know.
That's really cool.
I remember, and she had a child from her previous marriage. I had a child from my previous marriage. So we come together as a family, and her mother, I remember, gave us the money to buy the boys twin beds, and we're still sleeping on the floor.
Wow.
And because I am not, I mean, all money goes, you know, obviously money goes for us a place to live.
Yeah,
but
and food.
You know what? We're young. We can sleep on the floor on cushions.
Totally.
It ain't going to kill us.
Totally.
You know, so we did that, and then, you know, business is getting better, and then I ended up getting hired to do live sound for this international evangelist, and that really helped financially. So then I okay, well we'll buy a couch,
right?
You know, we'll get a couch now.
We'll get you a couch, honey.
Yeah, and then we got a new dining room table, you know, but still the bulk of the money is going back in the studio.
Yeah,
trying to get our living at home, like maybe like where the average American might be, you know.
Yeah.
And focus on this business, and she's supportive, you know. I mean, I got to give it to her.
That's really cool.
And so
cool you had that, because you could have put that on pause for forever.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And so we ended up buying a 24-track Otari 2-inch 24-track machine, and then I bought an MCI J636 console. You know, we're expand, more gear, just still struggling though. We're not where I want it to be, but we're getting there. Recording to lots of people. Between that and traveling, and we finally get up to the stage where the digital tape is a thing now. Digital tape, like the Sony PCM 3324 and the 3348, or the Otari DTR 900s, or the Mitsubishi X832, I think it was. That was a 1-inch open reel digital. Otari DTR 900 was compatible, but the Sony wasn't, and it was a 1/2-inch 24-track, and then they came out with a 48-track where you could start with a 24-track machine, take that same tape and put it on 48-track and get 24 more tracks.
Whoa.
Yeah. So you could start. You could start in a studio
that had that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you could go to a studio that had a PCM 3324, which would be cheaper. Do your basic tracks, and then when you're running out of tracks, you need to get more tracks, like maybe to do strings or whatever.
Yep.
of course, back in the old days, we did it all with 24 tracks. But, then you could go to a studio that had a 3348, a little bit higher rate.
Yeah.
But you have to transfer everything. It's the same tape. You just get 24 more tracks.
That's really cool.
So that era was coming.
Did it have to transfer at all?
No, same tape.
Those were all still there.
Yeah, it's just the spacing.
Oh, that goes in between or something.
Yeah, the spacing. There was enough room for their format to do 48 tracks, but they made a machine that would do just 24.
Man,
that's why it started.
Cool.
They started with the 24, then they went to the 48, then they went to a 48 HR, which was a higher resolution machine, higher bit rate.
Yeah, I did not know that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Dang.
So back then, a lot of digital was just 16-bit.
Yeah.
But the 16-bit, that 16-bit sounded better than consumer 16-bit.
Right.
And so, because the converters and the clocks were better.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the era we were at. But ADAT was coming out at about the same time, which is like a VHS type tape machine.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And you could sync, they claimed, I never did it, they claimed you could sync up to 16 machines. Each machine's 8 tracks.
Jeez.
I can't imagine ever doing 16 of them.
Sounds like a nightmare.
4 was a nightmare. So we had the Sony PCM 3324, which that machine was like $200,000.
Wow.
And of
new,
course, like I said,
brand new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like a Otari 24 track, depending on if it was an MTR 90 or MX80, $80,000, $50,000.
Wow.
So I had that, and I still had my old Tascam 16 track, and but we had a lot of money tied up. But by this time, we're legit.
Yeah.
How
like legit studio.
Yeah, we don't even own a home. We're still renting a house because.
Yeah. Studio.
Exactly.
Right. Priorities.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I mean, because like if you have a bad month, you get kicked out, you go find somewhere else to live. You don't have to worry about losing your home, as far as if you had a mortgage.
Right.
So, and of course, we moved a lot. There's sometimes,
and times get hard, man.
Yeah. I remember about, I don't know if I should get into that, about the $100 pizza, but because of a hot check someone wrote me. But
oh no.
Anyway, so our receptionist, the studio business is slowing down. I asked the receptionist, like, is nobody calling anymore? No, people can still call. What's going on? I mean, we still got bookings, but I'm noticing a decline.
Right.
And she says, she goes, they always ask if you have ADATs. And I'd say no. And they say, okay, thank you. And they hang up. And I mean, I knew what they were. I just hated it. I just didn't want to go there.
Right.
It's
almost like you had, spent so much time trying to get to a place and you got to like legendary. I mean, nobody talks about those ADAT machines now,
Right.
It's what you had.
Right.
It's like, you have the epitome of, what
I've
wanted.
I've worked, if you will, my whole life to get to this point.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to use it because it's expensive to use it because of the tape cost,
Yeah.
I mean, the hourly rate for this room, typically you would always try to charge a little bit more money for the digital machine because it's so much more money, so maintenance and stuff. But, if things are times are tough, forget that.
Yeah.
But the tape, you still got to have the tape, And of course, we had tape in stock that we called rentals. We'd erase it. Use tape. We'd use it so many times, then we wouldn't use it no more, you know. But we would rent it, so it'd make it less expensive as long as they didn't want to keep their master, but still, it's still expensive, And so I don't want to buy ADATs, I mean, I know what they are. I've never worked with them. It's like, really, it's come to this,
Yeah. This is where audio is.
I've spent all this time to get to this level, and I'm finally here, and nobody wants it anymore.
Right.
And I say nobody. That's not true, but
to make the business work.
If I want to stay in business, I got to make a decision.
Yeah.
And so I make the decision. I buy 4 ADATs, and I buy the BRC, which stood for Big Remote Control,
Mm-hmm.
and I buy the meter bridge for it, which would monitor up to 32 tracks. 4/8 is 32 tracks, and the roll around stand, so it's a complete 32 track system. Well, I didn't have 32 tracks available to me before. I had 24 track analog and 24 track digital.
Mm-hmm.
So this is cool. I got an extra 8 tracks.
Yeah.
And I remember we set them all up. And the first session I did, it was a rhythm section, basic. The first session I did, I used the transport like I did.
Yeah. Like a tape machine, basically.
Yeah. And I didn't use locate points all the time. I mean, we would use them, but I didn't use a locate point. If I needed to rewind, like we're going to go back and punch in, I would rewind and,
find it.
Typically I'd shuttle it, rewind, fast forward, because I was used to working with a machine I'd had one time where the brakes didn't work.
Oh, yeah.
Where if you hit rewind and stop, it would stop. It stretched the tape.
Right, yeah.
I mean, it would stop
like
there.
bad.
I mean, immediately.
Yeah.
It wouldn't slow down to stop.
Yeah.
It stopped.
Wow.
And so I'd just gotten so used to shuttling around. The Atari didn't do that, and the Sony didn't do that. But I'm talking about older machine. I just got where I would just rewind, fast forward, and slowly, and it'd slow the machine down, and then I'd hit stop. It was just a habit.
Right.
And so I hit rewind, and then I didn't do that. I hit stop, and one machine stops, and the light's flashing. One machine, and I hit play. One machine starts playing. One machine's rewinding, and one machine's fast forwarding. What the heck?
Oh, no.
I've got one that ain't playing it. I got 8 tracks going reverse. I got 8 tracks going forward. I got 8 tracks playing, and 8 tracks sitting there and don't know what to do. I said, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I remember saying, if this is what recordings come to, I don't want to do this anymore. And, so I'd hit stop again and wait, and they'd want to rewind. And you'd hear them go, okay, now I can hit play.
Yeah.
This is stupid,
Yeah.
And I remember saying, I hate ADATs. And all the musicians, it became a thing. They actually had, when cell phones came out years later, they had ringtones. They had recorded me saying it, and some of them made it their ringtone. I hate ADATs from years ago.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I think it was Steve Shorter. It was either Steve
That's
Shorter or
so
Terry
funny.
Scarberry, the guitar player. His ringtone was me. I hate ADATs.
Oh, my God.
I would say it constantly.
You knew.
Every session. I hate ADATs. It's just, I hate it.
It's got to be hard going from almost like living your dream. Like you're living your dream,
right?
Using the console, the analog gear, the tape machine, everything sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And then you go to this terrible world where everything sucks.
Yeah, the format's terrible. But it's cheap.
Right.
You could go out, you could go to Sam's. You weren't supposed to use these tapes, but you could go to Sam's Club and buy these VHS tapes for like $5 a piece. And you get 40 minutes of recording time, actually about 43 minutes of recording time. Buy 4 of them, you got 32 tracks at 43 minutes.
Right.
A 2-inch tape at 15 IPS you got 33 minutes. At 30 IPS, you only got like 16 and a half minutes.
Yeah.
That's 3 songs.
Right.
Well, that tape is like, at that time, if you were using 456, was about 100. Well, we sold the tape for about 150 a reel, and if we used 499, we sold it for like $180 a roll.
Mm-hmm.
So you're either paying $150 or $180 for a roll of tape, and you're either getting 16 and a half minutes or 33 minutes. Either way, you're not getting 10 songs.
Right.
And so you got to have 2 rolls of tape, or 3 or 4, depending. And, so people are like, I could spend $25. And I got, with tax,
right.
I got 43 minutes and 32 tracks, and it's digital. It's crappy digital.
But it doesn't work.
But at the time, the perception is
it's cheaper, it's better.
And of course, those little words that I absolutely despise to hear people say is, well, the average person will never hear the difference.
Oh, yeah. I hate, me too.
I don't like those. I don't. They should be removed from the vocabulary.
Of anybody in music at all.
There's truth in the statement, but it's incorrect. They don't know what the difference is.
Absolutely.
They hear it.
They hear it. They feel it.
They just don't know what it is.
And they don't know why.
Right.
They don't know why.
No.
They couldn't tell you.
No, they have no idea. But they
just
do
like it or they don't
like
it.
They do hear it.
They do hear it.
But if you bump, like if all you give a person is vanilla ice cream, you don't know there's all these other flavors. Right. So you just accept it.
Yeah, it's just how it is.
So that's it. It's vanilla. Yep. It's good, right? It's good. I love it.
Yep. It's good. It's cheap.
And then when you find out, you mean there's 31 flavors? You're kidding.
Right.
They don't like vanilla no more.
Right. Yeah. Vanilla's like in the past, man.
Yeah, who wants vanilla?
Yeah.
But if you don't know,
right.
And that's kind of where...
And if you haven't heard it.
And that's where we're at and today a lot. I mean, for the last several years,
I agree.
It's getting better.
Yeah.
Only with selected circles.
Yeah.
But for the most part, people don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, you can never imagine or miss what you've never heard or experienced.
Totally.
You can't.
And if you have never been in a studio and recorded something to tape, I've only been able, I still feel like I'm fortunate, but I've only been able to do it like twice.
Yeah.
Like it really hasn't been a lot. And I wasn't controlling it. I did play with,
Oh, yeah.
but I wasn't the person.
Right, yeah.
It wasn't my thing.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do.
You weren't the captain.
No, and I was not the captain. But when the first one I ever did was drums.
Yeah.
And so like, was was that I can't remember. It was either, I'm pretty sure it was a 9000J, if I remember right. Yeah. It was either a Neve, they're both big consoles.
Well, if it's a 9000J, it'd have a big screen in the middle of the center section.
I remember, so there was two consoles, the two big consoles, they were like the first big consoles I ever used like in a session, and it was both those two, but I just can't remember if which studio the tape machine was at.
Yeah, which tape machine you were using. Which console was hooked to?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was a 9000J. But anyway, just awesome kit. Of course, amazing mics. It was a studio just like this, actually, similar. It's a little bit not as deep of a control room, but the tracking space is very similar, actually. And we had the drums in a drum booth. They weren't in the main room. Right. They're in like the drum booth.
Right.
And dude, hearing the kick drum, I just remember hearing the kick drum like going through the tape machine. Yeah. I was just like, because I'd heard that mic.
Right.
Before. I don't remember what mic it was. But yeah, before. Yeah, I'd recorded drums and been in places, just normal Pro Tools stuff. But man, when you hear that, you can't ever unhear it.
Right.
No. It's like, And
it's something you find yourself longing for.
Yeah.
Or at least I always do.
Totally.
For me, I even have the old thing of opening up the box and that smell of the tape.
Yeah.
Oh, what a wonderful aroma.
Yeah.
It's like,
you need a candle that's like tape.
Yeah, a tape candle.
Fresh open tape box smell.
Well, like, back in the day when we were real busy, I mean, we'd have like several, we'd have a tape, a locker to keep all the tape in, but we'd have tape stacked up on the floor a lot of times because, we're doing so many sessions, you ain't got time, you grab the next roll and putting it on. And with so much tape running in the room actually, some of that actually infiltrates the room. The room
smelling like
room takes to an extent.
Yeah.
I mean, still especially when you pull open a fresh reel and pull that plastic. Oh, it's like the new car smell. Yeah. It was just easy. That was a lot cheaper than buying a new car.
Right.
As expensive as it may be, it's still. Right. But it was, it's just a time, and being connected to it, like a console using faders versus a mouse. I mean, obviously we all know you can do just about anything you want with a computer and a mouse and a keyboard.
Totally.
And do a great job.
Yeah. And it sounds great.
Yeah.
You're like, whoa.
Yeah. And you can take subpar talent and make them sound way better than you could had you not have that.
Right.
Yeah.
It'd be impossible if you just had the tape machine and a console.
Right. You've got, when you go back there, the talent has to get, the talent on the other side of the glass has to go up.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the engineer's talent. Yes, it does, obviously. But the other side of the glass, that talent has to get way better as well. So, nowadays, it allows more people to express their creative side,
Totally. Which is the good thing about it.
Yeah.
It's more accessible.
Right, it's more accessible,
which is awesome.
way less expensive. Back then, there would
Yeah.
be people would mortgage their homes so their kid could do an album.
That just blows my mind, man.
Yeah,
that's just so crazy.
$50,000 for a record was nothing. That wasn't big time.
And it's like it's just the chance. It's the chance because maybe they'll be a star. Yeah. Maybe this will pay off.
Maybe.
And you could do that now for like $100 or $200.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. If the kid learned how to do some things, they'll buy
him a USB mic and give him your spare laptop or whatever.
Use GarageBand or whatever's free now. And find some plug-ins for it, and off you go.
Have fun.
Yeah, obviously, as you learn the craft of recording, you're going to get better at it.
Yeah.
And you learn your craft of whatever it is, whether you're playing acoustic or singing or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, that wasn't even forget it. Back then, if you did an album with, say, a band, we're not, no strings, no brass, just
like
basic rhythm section, 5-piece.
Yeah.
10 songs, $5,000 was cheap. That was cheap.
Yeah.
Real cheap. And that's
like what, a day?
That gives you it give you 6 hours to record your vocals and 2 hours to mix it all.
Yeah.
3 hours to track it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so $5,000, that would have been a steal. If you could have done it for $5,000, you got a deal.
Right. Unheard of.
Yeah, it was cheap.
Yeah.
That was a special. If you wanted to do, get a little more serious, and that's renting tape too. Mm-hmm. That's not owning the tape. If you want to get a little more serious, put strings and brass and stuff. To do an album like that, $50,000 was nothing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of $100,000, $125,000, $150,000, and these aren't major artists. These are just. Right. This is somebody that wants to have a project that is at a level similar to that. Mm-hmm. Their talent may not be. Yeah, their talent may not be there, but from a musical perspective, the overall sound is on par with that.
Right.
Well, that's a lot. That's a lot of money today. $100,000.
There'd probably be a lot fewer artists if that was the case.
Exactly.
I thought that was your only chance.
Yeah. And that was $100,000 of that money then. That's not $100,000 today money.
Yeah, true. Today, so way more.
Yeah.
Way more.
Yeah, we're talking, it might be, I'd have to get one of those calculators out, but I bet you it's probably $250,000.
Oh, yeah.
At least $200,000.
At least, yep.
So now you think about it, $200,000 to make a record.
Yeah, it's so crazy.
Think of if you was to buy a computer, and converters and microphone. Think $200,000. Think of,
and that was your budget for it.
You could buy your U47, and you're not going to buy a bunch of them, but
you'd have one. You'd have an awesome computer, and you could even have a console.
You'd have a console, some outboard gear.
Yep.
Back then, you ain't got nothing. You just got a record.
Yep.
So
crazy.
It is. But something about, touching those faders.
Yeah. Something
about controlling that transport of a tape machine, that even if it's in like mine, I had them in a machine room where it's glass. They were over in the back over on the side. I could look there and I could see it was floor to ceiling glass tape room.
Yeah.
And so I could see them all, but I did that so I wouldn't hear the tape.
Right. Yeah. You'd have your control.
I was trying to, and the fans from the machines, trying to keep the control room as quiet as possible.
Totally.
But a lot of studios back then, the tape machine was in the control room. Most were.
Yeah.
Because it's not that loud, but I was trying to do the very best that I could.
Totally.
But, controlling that transport and all that, and then having to get up and walk back there and change the tape.
From like the digital one?
Yeah. The digital one or the analog one, So, you're out of tape, the musicians are out there, you got 3 songs done. Mm-hmm. Well, you got to change tape, you got to put it on there and take it, and then rewind it because you store it tails out. So you got to rewind it. Now we're at the head of the tape, come back, all right, Mm-hmm. And you didn't have to rewind it there. You could rewind the remote, but you still got to walk over there and change it. And they'd give musicians a chance to break, to go to the bathroom or whatever, and then you go again. And knowing that all you could do is punch in. If there was a musician made a mistake, you could go back and punch in on that mistake. But for the engineer, he had to know where that spot was. If they said,
exactly.
Yeah, I want. If say I want to punch on that 4/5. Where is that? Where's that at?
Right.
And you're hopefully you're following along, but then you rewind it, and you got to have an idea a sense of how far back was that 4/5 from where because we may have finished the song, and he said, hey, on that first chorus, I want to punch on that 4/5. Well, you could create locate points like and you'd jog back in the day, intro, verse, chorus, turnaround. You have a kind of roadmap, but there's still a lot of time in there. So you have to sit there and say, like, 4/5 is like 4 bars in, and the first chorus started here. That's about here, and you rewind, play. You give him a little lead, punch in. Where does he want out at? He may not have said it. He may just kind of nod at you, find the spot to get out. He may have told you where to get out.
Right. Or he may have stopped too early.
Yeah. He may stop because
and you keep going.
And it's
then you just deleted.
Yeah, you erase that. Now we gotta go back, punch in that 4/5 again. I'm gonna go past. And like piano was very difficult because just all it's a guitar is limited bandwidth, bass is limited bandwidth, vocals easy. I mean, phrasing. Right. But piano, covers all of it. And you'd find yourself you could get in maybe, but trying to get out, you hear a little bobble. Well, there's no undos.
Right.
And you can't do
that's what it is.
You can't sit there and drag it over. Oh, okay, and put your little crossfade on there. We're good to go. No. So
it's gotta be perfect.
You had to be paying attention.
It's almost like you are kind of a musician in that aspect. Like you're like playing a part,
And you're listening to all of it. For me, I would be critically listening to every one of them all at the same time, and I'm making notes. Even if I hear something like that seemed weird. Yeah. I'm making a note. I'll jot that down. Like, okay, a guitar, blah blah blah, whatever. I look real quick, write that number down, and then when they go back, and if he says something, he'll say where that's the spot. Yep. Or if they don't say nothing, I may think, okay, that may be just some odd chord. Yeah. To me it was weird, but it's okay. Right. But if it seems too far out, I'll bring it to their attention. And sometimes, I didn't notice that. Right. Good catch.
Totally.
But you find yourself more engaged. You're really honed in. Yeah. Like now with this,
Now it's like all right, let's do a take. All right, let's do another one. Yeah. Let's do another one. Yeah. Let's do it's this cycle, and then you kind of get to a point you're like, okay, cool, this is kind of a cool point. Like that we feel like we're somewhere now, Yeah. And then you kind of start punching in if there's some
or
mistakes.
You may copy and paste maybe different takes, components.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Okay, I'll take that chord here and this chord over there. Okay, these 3 measures here. Oh my God, can we just play it? As a band.
It's like your nightmare.
Yeah, it was my nightmare.
From where you came from.
Yeah,
especially.
It just bores me to death. It's like Jiminy Christmas. Right. I don't want to do surgery.
I kind of look at it especially just from talking to you so much about it as almost like now in a way it's a little bit more about the edit, whereas before it was a little bit more about the song in that moment,
the performance
the performance in that moment.
It was all that.
Now it's like so easy to say, like I've had musicians before tell me, we'll play something and there was like one little thing that was incorrect or whatever that they could tell, and they're like, oh well, you'll just take that snare and just there's that one snare is a little bit off of the two, but just bring it back a little bit, it'll be fine. Right. And it's just which is fine. Like we can do that, obviously, but it's just so different than that world where it's like, okay, let's listen to this song as like a complete thing.
Right.
Like, can we do this better? Can we, okay, let's play it again,
right.
you know, and delete what we had or whatever.
Or maybe everybody's okay, but, you know, maybe the bass player says, well, yeah, you know, it's good. But I can play that. I could play that verse better.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And then he may just want to replay the verse.
Mm-hmm.
Then again, everybody say, you know what, I could too. And we might do a group punch and just replace all of it. Or we might sit there and say, we can do it better and replay the whole
just
song.
Delete the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Start
Don't
over.
even say, well, you want to keep it? No.
Yeah.
Because they're confident they can do it better.
Right.
So we don't need to do it. Well, boy, that was really good. I may not be able to do that again.
Right. Which, you know, that has to have an effect on. I mean, it kind of goes back to how we started this conversation talking about like recording a podcast with somebody that you know or love or whatever.
It's a
relationship. There's a purpose. You know, there's a purpose for it, and like that's a totally different purpose or intention, like the way you're recording in that way,
exactly,
than now, you know, than the mostly what we do now.
and you know, by nature we're more focused.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
you have to. Well, you don't have a choice.
And as far as the engineer, you're definitely your attention span. You know, you're so critically listening while you're tracking.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you know, it's like, well, is it distorting? No, it's okay.
Yeah.
Not necessarily. I mean, because we had to, because of limited tracks, you know, we had to sit there and play. Okay, what's this song going? What's the end game of this song? You know, are we having strings on this? What's the instrumentation? How many tracks do we need?
Yeah.
We want it in stereo. We want our strings in stereo. So, but we got to allow, you know, room for that. So you have to strategically plan your track layout because you don't have 2,000 plus tracks that you can just keep. You got to think. So when you do that, and you have limit, you know, back in the day, you had limited gear compared to, I mean, you got a compressor plug in. Well, you've got, how many compressors
Hundreds.
do you need?
Yeah. Yeah.
Back
you buy
then,
one, you get as many as you want.
Right. Back then, no, you got one.
Right.
You know, so it's like, okay, we're gonna track. You know, let's say we have 4 compressors. You know, and you say 4 compressors. Yeah, I know. 4 compressors. I've done it with one.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But say you got 4, and they're not all 4 the same. You know, 2 maybe you got a couple of LA3As and a couple of 1176s, and that's all you got.
Yeah.
All right. Great compressors.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I'm going to need those If let's say there's a 4 vocalists, say this is, I'm going to need all 4 of those compressors.
Right, those are gone.
So I gotta put compression on the kick drum now. I gotta put compression on the bass now.
Right.
But I can't over compress it because it's screwed. You can't undo that.
Yep.
But I need to envision where this project is going, this song, where's it going, to make the bass sound like I need it to sound without having to turn around and alter it compression wise.
Right.
I EQ it and get it in the ballpark EQ wise. I can still hone that in a little bit, but I get it in the ballpark. But I can't throw it on later. Because I'm going to need those when I mix the project, the song with those 4 vocals. I need the 4 compressors.
Right.
I got to do it with the kick. Every element of everything.
Yeah.
And heaven forbid if there's some kind of specialty effects, because you don't have a 2,000 different effects that you can just throw it on.
Yeah.
So I may have to print this effect on there.
Right, like for the snare drum.
Yeah.
If that was your reverb,
I may have to make that there, and that's it.
That's what you got.
Because
you need a vocal reverb.
Right. Or I have to sit there and try to pick a reverb that works across everything.
Yeah.
You know, I can use it for a lot of things. Use the aux in, and a little bit of here, a little bit there, and blah, blah, blah. But if it's something more specific, and then, like, it's funny we're saying that, like like say Queen, the old rock band Queen.
Yep.
There's what song is it? I can't remember the name of the song, but there's
Bohemian Rhapsody.
No, there's a sound like that. Well, it's a chord on the piano played, recorded backwards.
Oh yeah, in reverse.
Reverse.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I can't think of the song.
And there's also that's a cymbal.
Yep.
recorded in reverse. But see, back then, we couldn't.
Another one bites the dust.
Yes. We couldn't record. Now, later, like the Atari MX-80, you could actually put it in reverse. It would record in reverse.
Whoa.
You could put it in record mode, and the tape would go backwards.
That's so cool. And it would actually record
It's recording it, but the tape's going backwards at the right speed.
So that it would play back.
Then it would play back in reverse.
Wow.
But
I did not know that.
But the older machines didn't do that.
Yeah.
So what you had to do, you got tracks 1 through 24, well, you had to sit there and flip the tape. You had to find where you wanted that to start. Let's say that chord, where, because all your numbers are backwards. You're upside down. Not only is the beginning the end, and the end is the beginning. You got to find where that is because you're listening. Everything's playing backward. You can't identify where you're at.
Yeah.
So you got to mark it with a grease pencil.
Oh, that part where that comes
on the tape, so you can see it, know where it's coming, so you can count them in. 1, 2, 3.
While they're hearing everything in reverse,
right? So you get there, but it's going forward, but the rest of the music going backwards.
That's crazy.
But you got to also think about, let's say that was on tracks 9 and 10. Well, when it's flipped upside down, it ain't 9 and 10 anymore.
No.
So you got to be careful because you could actually erase. Because there's piano up to that point. Because sometimes you may not be able to. You don't have tracks to have just for that effect. You've got to put it with it.
That's crazy.
On the same track where the piano's really going to be.
Yeah, where it is. And not the vocal or whatever accident.
If you pick the wrong one, you hit record. It's gone. Yeah. No undos. Shoot, it was not. 9 is not 9. So you had to think.
Right.
You had to think of everything. Right. Everybody's, it's purpose.
Right. It's purpose, intention.
No undoing it.
No undoing. It's right now. It's in the moment right now.
Yeah. And if you screw it up, we get to start over.
Yep. Try it all again. Yep.
Yeah. It causes you to record in a different way.
Totally.
Totally.
We're going to pause really quick.
Okay.
I'm going to run to the bathroom.
All right.
Good?
Yeah.
We're back.
Is that where you? Yeah. I think I'm about where I was. I looked at my phone. Sure
doesn't matter. They'll hear the in and out.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that's what makes some of the biggest differences in music in general. I'm not going to say music has declined, but in some ways it's so easy. People aren't putting the effort into it. And therefore, because you don't have to do all that stuff. It's
right.
If you make a mistake, it's real easy to fix it.
Right.
Right. And if you're not really that good, well, okay, I can't play the whole song real well, but I can play parts of it well at any given time. Mm-hmm. So I do 20 takes and I take bits and pieces, but I think it just affects the overall vibe, the feel of a song.
It's gonna be different if you took a band and you did that, which recorded everything independently, digital, whatever, and then you took the same band and were like, okay, now we're gonna either do a different song or do the same song, but the old school way with the analog tape, and you really only have that, and you're really only in the moment. That song is going to be different,
right? It's going to sound different. It's going to feel different.
Yeah, it's going to feel different.
It's like going somewhere, say the state fair or a club or somewhere, and there's a okay band playing. They're good, and you're sitting there like because that's you're digging it, or then you go further down, you go to another place at the state fair or another club, and it's a killer band. These guys are good.
Yeah.
What's the feeling? Totally different. You feel it totally different.
Right.
It could be the same song.
Yep.
Total different. You will feel you're going to want to hang there.
Yeah. And you can't help yourself.
Yeah. Yeah,
I know you've had that happen. I've had that happen.
Oh, yeah.
I was not planning to stop and stay, and I just can't leave.
Yeah. It's I've had it happen to me in the strangest places.
Yep, same.
I had it happen to me one time in a subway in New York, New York City.
Yeah,
the freaking guy was playing 5-gallon buckets.
Oh yeah.
And funny thing is one time my friend Steve Short, the drummer, he and I was together. And, he's a drummer. He toured with Reba McEntire and whatnot, and and we both just stopped. And like, this guy had this rhythm thing going in these buckets, and he was using his part of his foot to raise the bucket up to change the tone and stuff.
Yep.
He had this thing going on, you know, and it's like, you know, I mean, you go there, you know, there's any given place, there's someone playing buckets or acoustic guitar or whatever, you know, but you know, you walk by, but every now and then you're drawn into, and I'm talking about a guy playing buckets,
right?
You know,
yeah.
I mean,
nothing expensive.
No, I mean, but it wasn't the bucket.
Yeah,
it was this rhythmic thing. This thing. I can't even say what it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it caught our attention. And Steve pulls money out and throws the money.
Oh
in,
yeah,
you know, because it's like, and you're standing there, and you know, there's people everywhere. You know, you and like, and I remember thinking, I'm standing here being mesmerized by a guy playing buckets.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
How crazy is that?
I mean, it's not even technically an instrument.
Right.
You know?
Right.
But he was good at it. He was really good, you know?
Mm-hmm. And you felt it.
Right. Yeah. It was almost, at one point, I've almost felt like it was taking on itself, and he was almost like he was like on a ride with the music, with this rhythm thing he had going.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, he's creating it, but it took on its own identity, and he is now riding the train with this this thing,
whatever.
And that can happen with a band where it's like they're all gelling together, and this song has taken on its own self.
Yep.
And you're just glad you're a part of it.
Yep, and almost everyone knows it.
Oh yeah, the audience, they're like, I'm glad I am able to ride the train. Mm-hmm. I'm not the conductor. Mm-hmm. I'm not I'm not the one taking the tickets. But I'm here.
Yeah.
You know, but those people feel it.
Right.
Now, the more it happens, the less they notice it, but they still know. Those guys know.
Yeah.
But the audience definitely knows.
Oh, they know.
It's taken on its own identity. Now, you could go from that, or you could go back over to the other stage where it was good.
Right. Yeah, what are you going to pick?
Which one do you
in that moment, especially?
Are you going to leave there? Well, I wonder how good these guys are playing now. You don't even care.
Totally.
And I think recording is the same thing.
Yeah.
We just don't get enough the opportunities because, one, I think to do that, if you're sitting, and I'm not bashing anybody at home with a home computer.
Of course not.
But if you're sitting there in that environment, you're not going to ever take it serious enough to get there. Nobody is.
Without knowing, especially if you don't know.
Right.
You haven't seen it.
Well, because it's too easy. Why do I have to be serious about my engineering? Why?
Yeah.
I can fix it.
Right.
Why do I need to be serious about my vocals other than I want to be able to do certain acrobatics or whatever, or my tone to a degree? And I'm not saying they're not serious. I'm not saying that at all. But is your life depending on it? Because back in the old days, you mortgaged your house. Right. Your life is depending on it.
And that tape is what you did that day.
Right.
And that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
I mean, if you went back, let's say today in today's dollars, say it's $250,000. You invest $250,000 and you got 3 weeks. How serious are you going to be?
Right.
And who are you going to pick? Are you going to pick your friend because they're your friend, or are you going to look for the best? Mm-hmm. And you say, well, these is really good. They are. But are they the best?
Right.
It's $250,000.
Yeah, if it's that much money. Yeah.
And you don't have $250,000. You borrowed it, and you believe in yourself.
Totally.
You totally believe in yourself. If I could just get the opportunity, how serious are you going to be?
Right.
Even with a computer, how serious are you going to be?
Right. I think it's not even almost like an argument of like analog or digital or tape.
I'm not even talking about that.
It's not even that.
I'm not talking about that at all.
Not even that at all. Yeah.
Not talking about that at all. You got 3 weeks. You got $250,000. Mm-hmm. Go to your favorite friend's bedroom studio or wherever, or a commercial studio. That's not the point.
Yeah.
How serious you going to be? And you say, well, I'm very serious. Is your engineer just serious as you are?
Right, yeah.
Is your guitar player as serious as you are? Drummer, bass player, just keep going down the line.
Mm-hmm.
Are they as serious as you are? Are they good enough to you? Are you willing to risk the $250,000 to
Right, on that.
do you think that bass player's that good, or or drummer? I don't. The engineer. What? We're not talking about gear.
Yeah.
Are they that good?
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, but we can make them that good. Can you?
Technically.
You got 3 weeks.
Yeah.
In 3 weeks, the engineer isn't going to work 24 hours a day to comp. You say, well, I'm going to have the bass player play the song. I'm going to have him play all the songs 1,000 times. And I'm going to have the guitar player play it 1,000 times. And I'm going to have the drummer play it 1,000 times. I'm going to sing it 1,000 times, and so on and so forth. Okay.
Right.
Now you're going to have to listen to each one of those 1,000 times, make notes, to put it all together, and the engineer's got to be there with you and put that all together, and then mix it. You got 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're going to run out of time.
Probably going to run out of time.
And you're going to become totally unobjective.
And it's over.
You don't even care.
You don't even know what the point of the song is anymore.
Nope. You don't even care. You're tired.
That purpose is now a different purpose.
Now you're trying to figure out, how am I going to pay this $250,000 back? Because this ain't happening.
Right.
This was a bad idea.
Yeah.
But back in the day, that's what it was.
That's so crazy, man. That's so crazy. It's crazy that...
It wasn't.
I get it, because that's really the only option that they had.
Right.
If they wanted to do something like this, of course.
Right. So they practiced. They
had to.
They practiced.
Well, you didn't have a choice.
Right.
Like, if you wanted to be in the studio and be a musician or be a singer or whatever, like, all you had was practicing an insane amount, and playing with the best and learning from the best.
The term "time is money" is no more obvious than in that situation.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And so now, obviously, guys that do it for a living, well, they've done it so much that they don't necessarily need to practice.
No.
Like
not anymore.
Like a major session player, or like I'm going to say one of my guys that I love dearly, Steve Lukather. He doesn't need to go. He doesn't need to go sit around and practice before he goes to the studio.
Right? Yeah. Totally. Yeah.
But how many years has he been doing that?
Yeah.
And that's what he does. He's not working at the department store, and then Now you say, well, I'll hire people like that. Well, you're gonna need a little more money.
Right. Right.
You ain't got enough money.
Mm-hmm.
You say, oh, it wouldn't cost them to get all of it, strings and all, at that level.
Right.
$250,000 ain't enough.
Right. Especially when you add the strings.
Ain't enough.
And you got to have good strings, especially if you're recording a tape. This is the same conversation.
Right. But even if you're doing it,
if you're
doing it with Pro Tools or whatever, DAW, so I think the biggest differences in back then and today, outside of the gear, obviously is different. But we still use a lot of it today. But it's the approach that I just don't. For me, if I sit down at a mouse and a keyboard, that's no different than when I sit down to type up a Word document.
Right. Yeah. Type an email.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm connecting with it.
Right.
I don't feel. I know it's serious.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't feel like it's serious, because if it was serious, I wouldn't be sitting at a mouse and a keyboard. That's my mind.
Right. Well, especially because where you came from.
Right. Where I came from.
That wasn't even close to becoming a thing.
No, I remember when the Tandy computer, TRS-80 Tandy Radio Shack computer first came out. They was advertising it special for Father's Day. You couldn't record at that thing.
Right.
It had the little cartridges you stick in for the program to operate it. It was a joke. But, well, not then it wasn't. But, but I think it's not that you can't do good with computer or today's way of recording per se. I think they've made it too easy, so we're lazy about it. We're not serious about it, which that does affect the end result.
Totally. Because if you do look at it, like with that perspective, especially like because we have unlimited options of what we can do,
right.
we can put restrictions in. We
right.
could say like, okay, we are only going to do 32 tracks and try to record this, and we're going to treat it as tape.
Yep.
To where we turn the Pro Tools function to print, and that's it. And we can't, you can do, punching in and stuff like that, but everybody plays together,
right.
and it's all of this kind of brings me back to there's this amazing documentary. I can't think of the name of it, but it's the White Stripes, Jack White, and
I
always forget her name, but anyway, they did a tour through Canada. I think it was the last record they did, and they had never toured Canada, and so such a cool documentary. I think it's Under the Great White Northern Lights is what it's called. Under the Great White Northern Lights. Watch it if you haven't. It's so good. So they basically do this tour, and it's like, I don't remember how many days, but they go to every is it territory? Is that what they have?
Yeah, I think so.
Something like that. Not
I've
states,
been up there, but
like,
I don't remember. But
I forget. But they go to every one, and they play a show, but then they do a surprise show in the day. So they went to like a nursing home, bowling alley, They showed up at a dock, and they would tell everybody on social media like an hour before.
Right.
They showed up on in a tiny little boat with a speaker, and the waves were crazy, and they played a set like just for whoever was on the pier.
Yeah, who's there?
It was really cool. But one of the things that he was talking about, and I just thought was so cool, was he said that through his time, like of recording and doing music, and even in a live situation, is he said sometimes if you have all the colors in the palette and you've got everything you could ever want or need, or however many thousands of undos you can do, whatever, it's really hard sometimes to get the best product out of that. And he said like the best inspiration a lot of times comes with limiting your color palette so heavily,
right,
and just make it happen. Like sometimes that breeds like something beautiful that you would have never ever expected to get, or you didn't even think you could do.
Right. Well,
because you're relying on the color palette,
right,
massive,
I agree 100%. It's and what it does, I think, psychologically to the persons involved is you become more of the artist, whether you are the artist or not, but as a musician or whatever, because it isn't, a song or an album, it's typically, unless it's just a cappella, it's the song usually encompasses several personalities, which will relay those to colors.
Right.
The photo, the painting that the artist drew, he didn't paint it, everything was red.
Yeah.
Or 300 shades of red. It's all these different ones. And it was, and the choices he used and the degrees and where he placed the colors on makes something like a masterpiece, beautiful. Everyone just like, you stare at it. It's the combination of all the colors and stuff. Mm-hmm. And if you had every color known to man and you did it and it told AI to do it, it was your idea.
Yeah.
But so what?
Right.
Anybody can duplicate that.
Right.
But when you go to this other way where you bring it down and you have a limit, you created that with limited abilities, meaning not your own abilities. It could be, but you may have learned some things you didn't even know about yourself, or you might. That's how that happens, which you would have never done it.
Yep.
Because you would have never had to do it that way. I remember one time when I overcompressed the snare one time with the distressor. I didn't mean to. I compressed the ever living crap out of the thing. And I was busy, blah, blah, blah. And I wasn't really paying attention to it when I went to, that thing is so freaking tight. What the heck? And I looked, oh my God, I nuked the thing. But it's like that's so freaking, depending on the material, it's like, I would have never done that,
Yeah.
But it was an accident. It wasn't because I was limited. It was an accident, but the same things happen when, like the challenge to me is to do more with less.
Yeah.
If you've got everything under the sun, Well, anybody can do that.
Right.
I mean,
right.
So
it's almost like, where's the challenge?
So your DAW of choice is, okay, and your DAW of choice is, and you got every plug-in known to man, and you got every plug-in known to man. Okay, you record the band, you record the band. All it's going to be is the interpretations of what plugins you decide to use and how.
Right.
Granted, I'm not saying it's both are bad. They may both be killer.
Totally.
Now, take all those plugins away and give yourself 3.
Right.
Both guys.
Right.
Now go record the same band, same song. Do it again.
Mm-hmm.
3 each. I'll
Yep.
bet you there's going to be a big difference.
Oh, yeah.
From what you did before, and there will be a bigger difference from what each one did.
Totally.
One's going to have to get more serious.
Right.
You're both going to have to get more serious, but somebody's going to get more serious than the other. One person's going to say, this is crap.
Right. Never doing this again.
I ain't got enough. This is stupid.
Yeah.
Rather than say, how good can I make this?
Right.
How good can
And
I
it's
do
like
it?
how
The
good-
challenge.
Yeah. And it's like, how good could I make it on that front end?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
because you can't.
It starts all over. You got 3 plugins.
Yep.
How are you going to use them?
Yep.
You know,
And it's
use
good
them,
practice.
Use them wisely.
Totally.
You say, yeah, but I don't have to. No, you can be lazy. I shouldn't say this, but you can be lazy and you can become a big fat slob too. But
Right.
is that really the healthiest thing to do?
Right. Right.
Probably not.
Probably not.
So, back in the day, the other wasn't even an option.
Right. You didn't have that.
I mean, we couldn't even
choice.
think that way. We had to sit
Yeah.
there and find strategic ways to simulate stereo even. Like, because
Oh, yeah.
I want that to be stereo, but I don't have enough tracks for it to be stereo.
Yeah.
How am I going to make the ear think it's stereo? Is it really stereo? No, it's not stereo. Obviously, it's mono.
Right. Yeah.
So how are you going to make it sound stereo? Well, the first thing comes to my mind is with delay.
Mm-hmm.
Delay the left side a little different than the right side, just a little bit.
Yep.
Put a little effect on it. The illusion is
Stereo. Right.
separation. It created some little timing issues. Well, how much delay? I don't know. Learn.
Right. Try it out.
Figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's going to take more time. Yeah, better to learn now than when you're having to, take your downtime and learn from it. Don't sit there and go fluff off, do something stupid, waste your time. Learn your craft.
Totally.
Learn how to get the most with the least. And then when you got the most, guess what? You get to open up a whole new world.
Totally. Well, and you yourself have more tools.
Right.
Like with not external tools, just
No,
learning that way.
It's it's part of you.
Right. And that can become your sound.
Correct. That's
is
what
huge.
separates one from another is what
Right.
can, well, you go out to live sound, you got a front of house guy, take 2 different front of house guys, mix the same band.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Well, the chops that one guy has, this guy's got a lot more experience than this guy, and it's going to show up really fast because of the tools, the experience.
Yeah. And usually you're more pressured with time and, you
Yeah.
got to get it up and going.
Right, and the guy with more experience is going to feel more relaxed. He ain't going to
yeah.
be as nervous because this ain't his first rodeo. But he's got more in his repertoire. He's got more to pull from.
More tools.
And you can't, can you have too many tools? No. And you say, yeah, you can. Well, obviously not. How many plugins do you need? Apparently you can't have too many.
Right. Dude, all this reminds me of when we had Dave Reitzes in here.
Yeah.
When we had Dave Reitzes in here, we did a project with him, and if you don't know, first of all, he's a phenomenal person.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't believe.
Sweetheart.
He's just the sweetest person ever. He will not say anything negative.
No.
Doesn't matter what the situation is. It's crazy.
No, it is. I mean, he had
I've
plenty
never
of reasons.
Oh, yes, he did. And I've never met anyone that was that, like, that's just who he is just so far from.
Yeah, and hone right into it, man. I mean, focus.
Focus and.
He had every reason at times to sit there and say, "This is crazy."
Oh yeah,
or
and
to
where
not
he
do his
comes
best.
from. Yeah, where he comes from. He did all the Celine Dion records.
Yeah.
He did The Bodyguard.
The Bodyguard.
What was it, 9-time Grammy Award winner?
Yeah, he does stuff for David Foster.
Yeah, David Foster, The Weeknd.
Yeah.
Just endless. So
Barbra Streisand.
Yeah, so he came here. We did an orchestra project to basically like a live film TV special thing with a band and singers and stuff. And I was so excited to just be able to like see what he did.
Be in the same room.
Be in the same room. And we have, this studio has insane gear. Like talking about limiting your...
Yeah. It's kind of funny saying that.
It's funny saying that.
You look at all this.
You look at this gear.
It's like an engineer's dream.
Oh, dude, it is. It's just... It's unreal.
Yeah.
And so I was so excited to see like, okay, what's he going to do? Because he's a he only works on console.
Oh, yeah.
He's a console person. So he only works on SSLs. He's a legit
he's
up there engineer.
Yeah, he's a man after my own heart.
I know. So the craziest thing that I learned from that, like more than I ever thought I would, was that like less is more thing. Because we had 100, well, at the end of it, it ended up being like 160 tracks, something like that, with everything combined.
But when we tracked it, it was going down to Pro Tools, it was 108.
108, that's right. 108 tracking.
108 channels.
And then there was some tracks and
right,
stuff like that.
Yeah, above and beyond.
And then we recorded a little bit of stuff.
Right.
But anyway...
Live, 108 live.
Live, yeah, 108 live tracks so there's a stage above us coming down here, 108 channels. And whenever he was mixing, it was just, it was so refreshing to see somebody like have an issue with the way something was sounding, and instead of grabbing a plug-in or going for the EQ or going for any of this hardware stuff, like he would look at everything. He'd be like, okay, there must be something out of balance.
Yeah, massage it into place.
Let's massage it first. Let's do that first and see if we can get it there without having to alter everything, you know? And it would work.
Yeah.
Like you could see it happening in real time. And it was just like, and you know that comes from forever ago not having all this stuff.
No,
maybe just having the console.
Yeah, you couldn't do that.
No.
It
so
kind of
amazing.
reminded me of what a friend of mine told me years ago, Steve Short. I referenced him again. He called it neighborhood mixing.
Neighborhood mixing.
Like, don't try to make something sound the best it can be necessarily if everything else can't equal the level of quality.
Oh.
Make everything match the weakest point. Like a neighborhood, you go into a neighborhood, you know, a typical neighborhood, there's a theme. Houses are similar. They're not identical.
Right.
They're all different, different shapes, colors. Some may have more brick than others. Some may have a little bit of brick and rock. Some may have more siding. But there's a overall theme to the neighborhood.
Right.
You know, you may have your preferences, but they're all
they're all in the same ballpark.
And he that's what he'd always say, neighborhood mixing. So. Like, you know, you could sit there, let's say, you could dial in a kick drum, get that kick drum, man, it sounds so good. But then when you get everything else, it sticks out. It doesn't fit the rest of the mix.
Right. It's like too good for the mix.
It's too good for the mix.
Too good for the neighborhood.
Yeah, too good for the neighborhood. This is a neighborhood with 3,000 square foot homes. You shouldn't put a 30,000 square foot house in this neighborhood.
right in the middle.
Right. It just don't look right. It don't fit. It becomes an eyesore almost.
Yeah.
You know. Well, mixing, and that's how I view Dave.
Yeah.
It wasn't that's the best he can make a given track sound. What's the point of making the track sound the best it can be if it's going to stick out like a sore thumb? Because you're not listening to that track. You're listening to the song.
To everything. Yeah.
And that's what he would do.
Picture.
Rather than going around and finding a tool to do something, let's massage it together. And you say, well, then the whole project will suck. No.
It didn't.
Because you don't have anything to reference it to.
Right.
There are obviously a certain standards. Yes, we don't.
Yeah.
You know, we don't cook little highs out.
Right.
You know.
Right.
I mean, but overall, you say, but it could have been better. Well, maybe it could have been had this over here been a lot better, but it wasn't. So rather than emphasizing the bad, something that wasn't up to its best, now your attention's back to what's this all about? The song?
Right.
Now the attention's back to the song again.
Right.
It's not about a kick drum, a bass, a guitar, a reverb, that background vocal. It ain't about it's about the song. It's now you can listen to the song, and it's pleasant.
Right.
But
and
if
the feeling,
right,
you're not messing up the feeling.
Right. But if you would have done the other and find something, carve it up till you make it, that's killer. Yeah.
Yeah, that one thing is.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter.
Right.
And that's what I seen. I was curious about how he would approach it.
Me too.
There was some very challenging.
Oh my gosh.
You know, and to this day, whenever I listen to that, I sit there and say to myself, "Yep, it could have been a lot better," but not because of him. It could have been better if everything would have been better.
Yeah. Right.
There's elements
like
in there.
The performance, like the
right. That's where like a band playing all together, a good band versus a band that isn't as good.
Yeah.
Well, if they're not as good, don't emphasize things that
totally
makes them stand out.
Totally. You make it work.
Put it together, and that's what he did.
That's what he did. And it was
hundreds of channels.
It's amazing.
And
it truly was amazing.
Right. Then your focus isn't on any of that. I mean, because like there's little things in there that we both know could have been better.
Of course.
When I hear it, I don't hear that.
Nope.
I'm not thinking about that.
You hear it as I'm hearing a whole picture.
I'm hearing the song.
Totally. And it's beautiful. It really is. Yeah. He really did such an amazing job.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there was a few times I thought to myself a few times through that, sometimes early in the morning, I'd be thinking, how's he going to approach that?
Same. Especially when we got, because we recorded it. We were in here when it was recorded.
Right.
So there's a couple sections where I remember talking to you before, like, I wonder what he's going to do about this. You could say error. Right. Like, what is he going to do about this error?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Yeah, because it's live. We can't go out there and stop it and say, hey, we're going to punch in.
Right. Which kind of goes back to this. This is like the same conversation,
Right.
This is within exactly what we've been talking about.
Right, and this is a whole orchestra.
Right.
A rhythm section, a trap kit, and an orchestra. Not traditional orchestra, but we got a typical rhythm section and a full orchestra.
It was like 60 piece?
Was it 60 something, 60 to 70. I don't remember the exact number. Plus the other players.
Yeah.
And then
basically a full band.
Right, and background vocal. Yeah, a full band.
Background vocals.
60 to 70 piece orchestra, background vocals, multiple solo. A lot of, and it's live.
Yeah.
A lot of room for, if you're going to scrutinize
line arrays.
The line array, PA.
Yeah.
Conductor's earbuds aren't working.
Oh my gosh!
Trying to figure out timing. His buds.
Our converters crashed.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of
stuff happened on that.
Right. But overall, that's a pretty good challenge.
Totally.
But he never sweat it. He never was upset. He never once seen a moment of any kind of a frustration.
No. Even when he was at like the worst error.
Oh yeah,
he heard it, saw it, and then
he just
went to work.
Fixed it.
It's just amazing. It was truly amazing to watch.
Yeah,
and that's like the epitome. That is to me like the epitome of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Because he absolutely could have went in and like fixed everything.
Oh yeah, but it would take so much time.
Oh my God, it would have taken forever.
But what he did,
was it needed?
Huh?
Was that needed?
Obviously not.
Obviously not. It's just so interesting.
No, because you listen to it to this day, I don't think about any of those things when I hear it. I mean, if I do, it's just because of memory lane. My mind going down a memory lane. Oh yeah,
this you can't unhear certain things.
right. But I mean, I'm not like, oh, that sucks.
Totally.
I'm not like, none of that.
Totally.
And you're given a challenging situation.
Yeah.
And
to approach it that way it was just so cool to watch.
Yeah, and he's just so down to earth. Yeah. If you got any he's so answer any question. I mean, he's happy to show you.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he would take time while he should be working. He's showing us photos and stuff and talking about stuff. And it's not in a bragging way.
No.
He's not bragging.
It's just because we're all the same type of people.
Yeah.
We all love cool studios and cool gear and
I remember when I first met him,
experiences.
we were actually, I remember when I first, prior to that, I met him.
Because this wasn't done yet, right?
No, it wasn't done. The console was still in the crates.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right.
And matter of fact, that was nothing else. You know, he's sitting there taking pictures of the crates. And I thought, you know, really?
Yeah.
You know, nothing wrong.
Yeah. But somebody of that caliber.
Yeah, he's like,
getting excited still.
And I remember talking to him in the tracking room. We was reminiscing about tape, you know, old days. And, you know, I was telling him stories, and he was showing stories to me. And it's like, we live the same life.
Yeah.
You know, it was cool. Then I thought, all right, we live the same life. Then when we got to work with him, I'm like, okay, how you gonna? I know where I'm at. I know I'd have been frustrated.
Yeah.
But he wasn't.
Nope.
You know.
Nope. And it did show, like, and he said a few times, like, it showed that he's been through a lot of stuff. You know, he's had to have these similar challenges.
Yeah.
Because he said a couple times, like, that you have no idea. Like, you think this is hard. Like, you have no
pressures that he's been under.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this was a walk in the park.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
See, and that it's cool. You know?
It's cool. It's cool to see someone like that, especially in like the modern age.
Yeah, and of course in here, you know, he was able to, you know, this you can be in either world. You can.
Oh yeah, that's the most beautiful thing about this room, man.
Yeah.
That's the thing that blows people away the most. Like
Yeah.
every time I bring someone in here, like just the other day, that younger kid
Oh,
brought him in,
yeah.
And honestly, the thing that blew his mind the most was that the both worlds, because he couldn't, in his brain, like that was his number one question he wanted to ask, because he couldn't see it, like how it would be so easy. He thought it was going to be very difficult, like talking about the analog world and the digital world, like coming together.
Yeah.
And to be able to do anything you want. I mean, I remember whenever we were first, before this, we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves in a way, but before this, what do we call this? A revision?
Remodel,
remodel, I guess, renew. Yeah,
we redid
this whole studio. The studio was already here. Redid the entire studio, and I remember when we were just basically we were brainstorming.
Yeah,
for lack of a better word.
Yeah, like sharing visions. Like where was our vision? Where did we want this to go?
Totally. And like the number one thing that we both latched onto really fast was like anywhere you want.
Yeah,
it's like you want to be able to sit here. You want a digital person to sit here and be able to do anything.
Yeah,
you
and
want
comfortably
and easily.
Yeah,
and not hard. Like you don't have to do a bunch of extra steps.
No.
And the same on the analog world.
Right.
And then same really with the fusion between the two with Atmos.
Yeah, the hybrid of
That's
it all.
That's the craziest thing about this room, is to be able to like do a full analog mix while doing Atmos at the same time. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, with all that outboard gear.
Crazy.
And you know, speaking of that, you know, a lot of people, you know, they talk about the downside of using analog gears. You know, in today's world, you know, we do so many revisions. Like, people will listen. It's like, well, I want this, you know, and people, you say these words. It's kind of funny here. Well, I want that up 2 dB. It's like they don't even know what 2 dB is. But okay, I get what you're saying, you know.
Totally.
But you know, for people, you know, so many variations. Okay, I want my vocal down here. I want my vocal up there. I want this there. You know, and you say, well, in the analog world, you can't do that. Well, that's not true.
It's not
you
true.
Can.
You can.
And you say
it's
no,
harder
because of all
money-wise.
It's harder to an extent, but it's not as hard as people think it is.
Yeah, I say harder money-wise. It's harder because you have to have more money. Not harder because it's more difficult. Harder because you have to pay more.
You gotta, to
make it easy. I should say that to make it easy.
The way you have to, the gear you have to have, and the way you have to design it, to the infrastructure to do it. But if you have it, and you can do it if you've got the financial resources,
right?
It can be done, and no, it's not cheap.
Of course,
but you can, and then, you know, because most of the time in a revision, rarely is revisions is there's not enough compression, there's too much compression.
Yeah.
I don't like that delay. usually that's all been worked out long before you're doing revisions. Revisions are typically about a volume change of something.
Totally.
90% of the
Keyboards
time.
up.
In this one spot or down. And there might be, I want a little bit more, some frequency thing, maybe. That's further out.
Yeah.
Rarely is it about an effect of I don't like it, because that was established when you mixed it.
Yeah.
I mean, those time signature things are time signatures. They are what they are.
Right. Yeah.
And as far as compression, unless you over compressed it, which one?
Like
why did
crazy.
you do that?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You're not going to ask for less compression. You might ask, maybe you want it squashed a little more. Well, you can do that easily with a revision in this room.
In this room.
But most, I hear that all the time. Yeah, but you can't do any. You know how long it take for your assistant to go in and reset everything? Yeah, I do, but you don't necessarily have to do that.
Right.
If you've got the money to spend for the infrastructure like we did here.
Yeah. Which we didn't pay for. Got to throw that out there.
Yeah,
Me and you.
Yeah, we didn't.
We were hired.
It wasn't our pocketbook.
Yeah.
No.
I couldn't personally do that.
I
so
couldn't either.
Let's get that straight.
It's is very expensive.
But this is different.
This is a very expensive room.
Yeah.
And there's
a different world.
There's a ton of money in what you don't see.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, what you see here in the console, obviously.
Yeah.
But even with all the outboard gear that you can't see, well, you and I can, but they can't. But there's a ton of money beyond that.
Yeah, in the floor.
In the floor, in the
walls,
in the other room, the machine room.
Oh yeah. I need to make a studio tour of this place.
But
still haven't done that.
But it can be done. But by having that, like we were saying, if you want to work in the box, no problem. Joe Carroll worked in here for months from Nashville, and he did this console some, but he did a lot in the box in here as well.
It's just anything you want.
If you want to work out of the box and just basically use Pro Tools as, say, a recorder, that's the way I always worked. Is no plugins. All I needed was the computer, the converters, and Pro Tools. I didn't need a single plugin. Because I was
anti-establishment.
My thought was, or like Melodyne, like you need Melodyne. No, you don't. Yeah. They just need to learn how to sing in tune. That's all you need.
Sing it better.
They need to learn to sing better. And I've offended a few people inadvertently over it, but but
you just come from a different world, man.
It's like, why? Why am I going to spend all this time? Why didn't you just learn how to sing it right? And then we could be done. Move to the next song. Instead of moving to the next song in the back of my mind, I want to spend, the next 8 hours after they're gone. And, they're having dinner. And now I'm sitting here listening to them. Why?
Yeah.
That's just me. So I just don't really do it much.
Right, yeah. That was your answer.
But that was my answer. Rather than, okay, I get it. People that are not going to adapt. So I will move to a different.
Yeah.
I'm still involved, but I'll move to involvement in a different way.
Totally.
And I am.
Which I'm kind of glad you did.
I'm more than happy about that.
Totally. And I'm glad you did, because now you have been, but you are basically prioritizing instead of the studio. In a way, you could say you are prioritizing the studio, but in a different way.
In a different way.
Because now you make products.
Yeah, we make products for studios and musicians, and I find that is exciting and as challenging as I did the studio back in the old days.
Yeah,
because every session was a challenge. I mean,
totally. We
have limited budget. We got limited budgets, limited time. We got to get the best players. The problem with that is that really spoils you for today.
Yeah,
it's like, why am I that drummer? Come on, or whatever. But so now with making the product, I get there's the challenge again of making a product that the musician or the engineer wants to use, and can hear the difference between it and say it's a competitor, another brand.
Right.
And when they pick it, let's say they do a shootout and I don't know if I should say names. You can decide if I should say names.
I mean, whatever. Other brands of DIs.
Right. We're talking about DIs when they use other brands, regardless of if it's the top or a
most
cheap
expensive.
or most expensive, and they still choose mine. That's very rewarding.
Oh, I'm sure.
But it's very challenging to achieve it.
Right.
Right.
Totally. Because if it was easy, everybody would do it.
Right. Well, and it goes back to just who I am. All those years of the stupidity as a kid, and getting in trouble and whatnot, all that knowledge, and then all the years in the studio business. Because if I hadn't went through all that, probably as a 5-year-old kid, I wouldn't have gained all that knowledge. If I wouldn't have went through the whole thing with RF, and all that intelligence. You said, well, what's that got to do with it? How to keep RF out of your audio?
It's a big deal. It's a big deal.
That's part of it.
Yep.
All these different experiences, and then touring all over, going to other countries, doing live sound, being in the worst environments and the best environments, and in the studio, and always trying to achieve the best tone with the least amount.
Right.
All that accumulated together is and that's what I bring. Now it's the challenge. Okay. So I remember and this, and it's never, I never approach it, design to be better than anything. I approach it to be the best that I think it should be.
Yeah, the best you can make it.
Yeah, me, for what my perception.
It's almost like you're not, in a way, you're not thinking. Rick Rubin talks about this a lot. It's like you're not really thinking about the audience per se when you're designing these.
I'm not thinking about them at all.
You're trying to make the best thing for you and what you think.
Yeah,
and then it's.
If I was going to use this in a given environment for a given purpose, I want to make it the best I can.
Yeah.
If it so happens that some individuals choose it over something else,
awesome.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I remember the first time, and I won't say the name, but I remember the first time there was a comparison between a given one of a product.
It was here, wasn't it?
It was here.
Was I here?
You were.
I were, and you were plugging it in right over there.
I was.
Yep.
It was a different console.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
And
that was like right after, a little bit after we first met.
Right. And I was, I'd already, compared to some other known name brands, that had already happened. People was starting to favor it. Okay. That was all cool and fun. First, you don't know.
Yeah.
You're a little nervous, but hey, what if you're not as good as brand X, okay, it's still good. It still works great. People still like it. But if people start perceiving it, they're wanting it better. They're approving it over, say, brand X. That's a good feeling, But that wasn't my objective, like you said. But that happened for a little while, and you get where you can just that's just But not everybody likes
right. Totally, everyone's got different.
It's funny. There was a situation last year with a live band here, and the bass player tried one of them, and he didn't like it, and the sound man for the band didn't like it, which I was okay.
Yeah,
it didn't bother me. I mean,
everyone's got
I didn't take it
preferences.
personal.
Of course.
Their response was it was too good, and that I could never understand. I couldn't get my head wrapped around what does that mean.
Yeah.
Later, I think I interpreted what it meant was it was exposing.
Too much of something.
He didn't like that, and I get that because like I've had vocalists who have sang on cheaper microphones and then they get to sing on a really good microphone, and I don't like the way that sounds because it's revealing things, and they think it's not as good, and it's like it's not that the mic isn't as good. The better the gear reveals. If there's flaws, it will typically reveal the flaws more.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't mean the gear isn't as good.
Right.
Which is a good thing because it should work on your craft, get better. So, but this one particular thing. You know, I had mixed emotions about that one time when you were here. We did that.
Totally, because it was a brand that even I, well known, everybody knows it's the best.
I still respect them to the
absolutely.
nth degree.
Yeah.
To this day.
Yeah, there's
some of
right
it
here.
There's some of it in here.
Totally.
I totally respect it. I think it's great.
Totally.
I think it's top shelf, whatever. I don't have the words.
Yeah.
And I was having mixed emotions because I thought, well, if I come in second, so
yeah, it's still good.
That's really good.
Yeah.
But then I thought, well, what if it's favored?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna feel kind of bad. I mean, I did. I was like, I didn't know how to feel.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's a weird feeling.
Totally.
You know, it's happened now 3 times.
Yeah.
I told you the story about last year. This band. Well, that same band was here again just not that long ago, but the bass player was different. But it's the same sound man.
Mm-hmm.
And the bass player was using the particular product that we just mentioned.
Right. Yep.
And he tried the same product that the other bass player had tried, that the sound man did not like that DI on that bass. Same sound man. Only difference was it was the same actually DI, physically, the same exact one even. But it's just different bass player. This bass player loved it. Mm-hmm. And the sound man loved it. And my son told him, said, it's the same one. And the sound man goes, no, it's not. And he said, it's the same one. He goes, no, you've done something different though. He goes, no, it's this. He goes, it's literally the exact same.
But different bass player.
You know, different bass player.
So who knows?
Right. But the point was the sound guy thought it was horrible. And now he's saying it's the best out there.
Yeah.
And then someone asked him, well, what are you going to do with your other one? He goes, I'm going to put it on eBay. You know,
which is crazy.
Which is crazy.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But I don't make anything, whether it be a DI, a preamp, solid state tube, doesn't matter. I don't make it with the thought of trying to be better than anything.
Yeah.
I make it with what I would want, I think would be better.
Right.
And so far, I've really only had that one time where a person didn't favor it over.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I forgot about, I don't know if I should say his name, but he replaced several.
Oh yeah, his whole band and studio.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know if I should say his name.
Probably not.
Yeah,
but he's a well-known. In the industry.
Yeah,
producer,
well-known. Yeah, he's got awards and stuff.
Tons of awards.
He replaced all of his.
Yep, studio too. That's what's kind of crazy.
Right.
Studio and live, because he was basically using his studio DIs on his tours.
For live, yeah.
And then
replaced
everything now.
Yeah.
All his records are all it's kind of crazy.
It is.
It's crazy to think about.
Yeah, I remember after he first, he was like, reluctant. Then he did, but he didn't really have a lot of opportunity, but enough that he wanted to buy, he bought 6 right off the bat.
Yeah.
Then called me 2 weeks later and told me he'd had more time and said, I want some more, and told me that he was going to replace them. And then months later, I'd seen him, and he showed me, he goes, here, look in his rack. And sure enough, you could see where the footprint, it's like.
So awesome.
But it isn't like I said, I don't have the goal, because there is nothing, I mean, once you get to a certain level, there is no the best. Mm-hmm. Like microphones.
Oh yeah, totally.
You say, well, that's the best microphone. It might be the best microphone for a given application or a given vocalist, but it's not necessarily the best.
Right.
Is it one of? Yes. Is it the? Well, it depends. I wouldn't put that on. I wouldn't put that on a snare drum.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
No.
So it depends on the application. So. I don't approach anything of trying to be the best of anything.
Right.
I try to make it the best of what I perceive I could do for a given purpose.
Totally.
Not to try to knock off anything or anyone.
Right. Totally.
And of course, make it affordable.
Yeah.
And also in some cases compact.
Yeah. It is crazy with what you've done here. So we're kind of getting to time So we're gonna have to do a part 2, man.
Yeah, we might have to.
A part 2 podcast, because we didn't even get into how this studio came to be and how me and you met each other, and we really need to go there. So we're gonna have to do a part 2.
Yeah, like the whole design and all that.
Yeah, but just so everyone knows, these products are all Danny's products. These are Intec Audio. You got it on your shirt too.
Yeah, my shirt says
is the company. And so well, you had only had the X12, which is this green one.
Correct.
And what's the other? I forget the.
It's
there.
It's over here. That's
K10.
the stereo. Yeah, K10 is that one. This is the X12.
And then a K10 black one.
K10 black down there, and then the K10P.
Yeah.
Which is
I don't even think you had that.
Identical. I had those 3. That's all I had. I had the 3.
So through a mutual friend, I didn't know you yet.
Yeah.
But a year before anything happened with this, I got to take a few of those home and just to test them, because I was curious. I love testing gear, and I didn't know anything about these. I didn't even know your name.
Right.
It was Armstrong, actually.
Oh, okay.
And so I took them, invited a musician friend over that was like multi instrumentalist, and we just recorded a bunch of stuff. We recorded like violin, acoustic guitar, bass guitar. We had a Yuki bass.
Oh.
I still have those tracks somewhere, but recorded all this stuff and compared them to multiple products that I use all the time.
Right.
And I just could not believe what we were getting.
Yeah.
Even the artist, especially with the acoustic guitar and the bass. Like those two things were just... It's just crazy. So I'm technically biased because, like, obviously we're friends, we work together, we do, there's lots of things. But I will say that there has been times when I didn't have one of these in the studio down here, and we just grabbed another product, put it in, and I've called you and been like, dude, do you have any DI here?
Right.
Because we need it. Like, that's happened like multiple times. Yeah. Because for whatever reason you were using them.
Yeah, I don't know why we don't just leave some down here.
I know. Well, sometimes we do, but then it's when people want to listen
they
to
want
it.
They want to use it on a live event.
And then we forget.
Yeah, they get left
until
up there.
We need
There's
it.
A drawer full of them up there.
Yeah. So these DIs, right now we have these 2 compacts, which are the RDA and RDP. So that's an active DI. They're both mono. And then this is a passive DI, which is basically like palm of your hand.
Yeah, they're very small.
It's crazy. It's like a wallet.
I lost one. I lost one time because it was in my front pocket. I was walking everywhere. It was in my pocket, and I couldn't find it. I was like, where did I put that? I just had it.
That's so funny.
And I was looking everywhere, and I realized, it's in my pocket. That's that easy.
Oh my gosh!
Because wouldn't you? I don't smoke, so wouldn't you say it's
I don't smoke
smaller
either,
than a
man.
pack of cigarettes?
I don't know. It could be about the same size. I don't smoke.
Certainly, I think a little shorter than a pack of cigarettes.
But these are the DI. These 2 especially are the DIs that beat out everything else. That's the most surprising. It's just crazy because they're tiny.
Right.
But they just sound so good. And I especially love them when people bring in basses that aren't like amazing.
Right.
They just
a little
what they
lacking.
Have. Yeah, they're just, they just don't have that giant tone. Like it's just expensive, versus like a super expensive like studio bass.
They brought in the cheap pawn shop bass.
Yeah, these save it.
Yeah,
1,000%. I mean, we had that happen on that special we recorded. Remember with the I think it was with the upright. This is a tube DI, which is also that will save your life.
Oh yeah, that's what we used.
What we used. Yeah, because we had some other DI on it. It could have been one of these.
It might have been the X12.
It might have been the X12, but it was just the pickup was terrible.
Yeah, it was.
And so we were like, we need to do something because this isn't going to work. Because that was our low end.
Yeah.
And so we grabbed that thing and played with the input and output gain and got just for what it was, an amazing tone out of it.
Yeah, out of a substandard bass
instrument. Yeah, and that's what's crazy about these DIs. So we're gonna leave a link in the description so you guys can check them out because these things are amazing. I don't even know what to say because I can't say enough good things about them.
And really the X12, really what separates it, I guess, probably from a DI, because a DI typically has pad ground lift in and through, but this one actually has a few extra little features like phase reverse and high pass filter, and of course the pad. but it has the mute with a red LED to let you know it's muted with a buffered tuner out. So you can use it to drive another, something, or you could, use it to have a tuner left plugged in, and when you mute it.
So for people who don't know, though, the buffered tuner out, like a lot of times if you have a DI with a tuner out, or really even like some wireless, like that have a tuner out, actually degrades your signal when you use it, right?
Yeah, yes. Yeah, because it puts another load on the pickup.
Right.
So the top and the bottom end are the first things that'll cave in a little bit, and it may not just seem like the instrument's not responding in the same way.
Especially a bass guitar.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bass guitar.
And with the buffer tuner out, it has no effect whatsoever. You could literally short that out, and the XLR and the through would still be functioning. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter. Yeah. There's no load. But when you mute it, the tuner out stays active, but the the through, and the XLR still it mutes the signal. Mm-hmm. And of course, like I said, it's got a red LED to let you know it's muted. So it's a handy little feature. People say, well, it's sitting on the floor, it's inconvenient, mm-hmm. and you're exactly right. But this was designed, back to what I was saying, I designed stuff based upon kind of where I'm at that time. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I was doing a lot of session work, and bass player usually, or guitar player, there's usually a music stand there. There's sometimes a stool sitting there because they may have a drink of water sitting there on the stool. So we would just sit on the stool. So they just reach there and mute. Right. They leave their tuner plugged into it like that. So it wasn't inconvenient in that case. It
wasn't going to everybody.
No. And if the bass player was going to say unplug and plug in a fretless, if I was busy, or I'm talking with the guitar player or whatever, he could unplug without having to wait to get my attention to unplug so it wouldn't pop. Right. He could just mute it and do it himself. Right. Or instead of leaving it and running his batteries down, he could mute it and unplug it and walk away. If we're going to take a break, you'd have to say, "Oh, it's okay to unmute. It's okay to plug it. We're muted." Yeah. You don't have to worry about it.
That makes sense.
But for a live, it's a little more inconvenient, and that's why we're coming out with a stomp version. Nice. Where the mute is actually on a stomp with a switch.
That's cool.
Yeah, so it's basically kind of the same DI. It's a little different shape, but the mute is with a stomp.
That's cool. Is that one, is it like a cat line? Is that what it is?
No, it's still just, it's basically the same as this. It's just the mute is via a stomp, so you stomp the switch.
But what is that connection, the mute switch?
It's internal. It's in the box.
Oh,
the switch
is
in the
box.
It
comes with it. Yeah. I got you.
The cat thing, you're probably talking about the Cat 5 DI that we're coming out with.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
Which is a regular DI. We don't have one down here because it's not in production yet. It will be soon. But it's a regular DI, like any DI, has the XLR like any DI would have, but it also has a Cat 5 connection. And in the front, it has 4 switches that allow you, like you use the Cat 5 with your Cat 5 breakout that plugs into your console, which gives you 4 channels. Yep. So you'd run that to your DI, plug the Cat 5 into the DI. There's a Cat 5 out. There's a Cat 5 in and Cat 5 out. There's still the XLR, so you can use it normal. Right. But then you could run from that Cat 5 DI to another Cat 5 DI, loop up to 4 of them. Yep. And then on the front, it's a recessed switch. You use the 1/4 inch and you can push it in to assign this DI to channel 1, 2, 3, or 4.
So you could, instead of running a bunch of cables out,
instead of 4 cables,
you're just one
cable,
links.
And then you just loop from one to the other, and then you just pick of those 4, because you got 4 channels on the Cat 5. You pick which channel you want that DI that you're holding to be on. Do you want it on channel 1, 2, 3, or 4?
Awesome. It's going to be awesome.
There's an active and passive.
Nice.
It's just not here today.
Not here yet. Soon.
But it will be.
Coming out soon.
So
awesome.
I'm going to say the first of the year.
Nice. That's fast.
Yeah. Well, that's fast. It should have already been out.
It'll probably be a month-ish once this goes live.
Yeah. Probably. That's cool. Sometime in January.
Well, definitely click the link in the description. Everybody watching. Wherever I'm looking here.
Yeah, whoever's watching.
And definitely. We'll have the website. We'll have a place you can order them, all that stuff.
Yeah, and there's 3-year warranties on all of it.
Yeah. And it's awesome stuff. We use it here in the studio, and
use it live.
And we use it on all live stuff. And I'm just so thankful that you're in the building, that we get. It's like we have a cheat code, to where we get access to it all. You know, especially to be able to like test it and have all of them and find what works best. It's just so nice.
And there's
so
not a better
awesome
environment to test, because like we get to go test it for live. You know, put it through the rigors of live.
Yep.
But then we can come down here and really critically.
Totally.
You know, check stuff.
Totally. So basically, for everyone that doesn't know, there is a full massive stage right above our heads. Literally right above our heads, a whole theater. It's a 3,000 seat theater, and then we're basically underground, underneath. We're separated, so we don't really hear really anything.
But we have tie lines, isolated tie lines, so we can 128 lines, so we can record.
Yep. And the split, every line goes through a Jensen transformer?
Yes, every line is going through a Jensen transformer.
This place is crazy.
It is crazy.
Well, dude, we probably need to wrap this up. I don't even know how long it's been, but it's
too long.
I don't know about too long. We're at it's been long. We might be at 3 hours or close to 3 hours.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
You may need to break this one up somewhere.
No, dude, this is what it is.
Is somebody going to listen to us talk for 3 hours?
If you did, please tell us in the comments.
Yeah, if you did, we need to figure out some surprise, some reward.
Yeah. If you did, and you're the first person, I hope I'm okay saying this, but if you did, and you're the first person to comment that you did, and it's like time stamped or whatever,
you're fine.
And maybe put the timestamp in of where this point is so that we really know.
No, we should give us time for. When did I talk about the RF radio? When did I talk about? So someone didn't just fast forward then. Oh, yeah. I don't know, but
be honest. If you really did, be honest. We're all. We're all honest here.
I don't know what you're going to say, but I'm okay with it.
Great.
I don't care what you say.
I hope so. This isn't my company, but if you did, if you made it this far and you put it in the comments, you're the first person to put in the comments, we'll send you either this RDP or RDA. Completely free.
I guess you let them pick.
Yeah, whichever one you want. One of those two. And you're gonna. That's crazy. Free.
Yeah. You can have.
I
it
would
for
be
free.
so stoked to win one of those things. You know, if I knew how they sounded. Of
right,
course.
Right.
But yeah, so if you made it, and if you made it, thank you so much for listening to this. This is the first kind of video podcast thing, trying out, just kind of whatever. I thought it went pretty well.
Yeah.
And
there's still another story.
There's still, we're definitely going to do a part 2.
About this.
Yeah, we're going to do a part 2 because one of the biggest reasons we wanted to sit down and talk was because no one knows the story of this studio and kind of how it came to be and how me and you met to build this thing.
Yeah.
No one even knows, I don't think, that I had that part in it or that you're even here.
Right. I'm sure they don't. But you're an integral part, obviously.
Totally. It's a team.
And I tell you what, we'll give a free DIY for the listener of that. At the end of that, of the second one.
The second one.
So if you watch it
DIs.
all the way through, whoever.
That's so cool, man.
We'll give another one
I appreciate that so much.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's awesome. So get in the comment. I will find you. I'll contact you, of course, and we'll just.
We may even periodically do free on different videos.
Maybe we should.
Unrelated to me or you.
Yeah. Totally.
We'll just periodically
Gotta make them work for it a little bit.
For a free product.
Totally. So keep listening.
Yeah.
There's going to be some stuff, some free stuff coming. So
yeah, and it won't always be a DI.
There's other. We'll talk about that in the next one. But there's gear in this rack that's Intec audio. We just kind of have these handy right now.
Right.
And a lot of stuff coming out. And super stoked on it, and especially when you come out with some of the stuff I know about.
I know.
We'll do a whole thing on just that because I think everyone's gonna freak out. It's very. Just as an audio person, I'm just so excited to play with it. I just cannot wait.
I've already got orders for.
I know. So, it's exciting.
Yeah.
Well, dude, let's wrap this up. But thank you for real. Thank you for doing this because you're not this type of person that would do this. So I appreciate it so much. And
I was dreading.
I know you were, but it went fine, right?
Yeah.
It's been fine.
Yeah.
It's been so chill. It's really just been me and you talking. And that's what I wanted it to be.
I basically kind of just talked about how I got to this point.
It's great, man.
Skipped a lot of places, but
of course,
that's cool.
But it was the moment. It was the intention of,
Yeah, I'll be more comfortable in the second one.
That's great. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, man. Appreciate it. And
until next time.
Until next time.
Yeah. Cheers.
Goodbye. Cheers. We did it.